Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Paranormal Round Table. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and with me today, I'm sorry, unfortunately, today I had to go with the second string. That's you, Chief.
Hola and buenos noches.
Everyone, Sal can't be with us tonight. He's unfortunately has to go to a funeral in Houston. Very sad. He had a death in the family, and so our prayers and thoughts and everything are with him. He's going through some stuff right now, and so I found this out like yesterday. So everyone, just keep him in your thoughts, and he'll be back. We'll have him back. Poor guy, going through a lot.
Our condolences go out to Sal and his family.
His family, yeah. So it's not how we wanted to start the Happy Halloween show, but it is what it is. But in his place, we got two guys that maybe together could maybe equal one guy. I don't know. Maybe
three quarters.
I mean, I guess I have the height, and you can have the size.
But if you guys need support, I'm the second string.
You're the second string. We're in the minor leagues anyway. What does it matter? And speaking of leagues, everybody knows the Astros lost yesterday. The Astros, man.
Astros lost.
I cannot believe it. That's heartbreaking.
Maybe that's what bumped my Halloween.
You know what? Halloween feels weird today. It does. It was cold. It's so cold. It's like 40. It's like what? 40 degrees out there. 38 degrees.
Maybe that's why there wasn't that many Happy Halloweens.
There's not that many people trick or treating out there.
People are saying Happy Halloween this year. What's going on?
Well, people are saying Happy Halloween because it's too cold. They think it's Christmas time.
I want to hear it.
Texas. This is cold for Texas. I've had Halloweens that were in the 80s here in Texas.
The minute it got dark, it was freezing today.
The first year you worked for me, I remember it was hot. Remember that?
It was hot.
That was the year my brother wore that ridiculous
hot.
outfit, and I had the Jason mask.
Yeah,
I remember that.
right.
And the police were like, "Take the mask off," because they were looking for somebody.
I remember that.
And we used to get in fights downtown. The good old days. So, guys, everybody that's tuned in tonight, you're here to hear amazing stories, okay? And that's why you're here. And I don't have those, okay? I don't know who you're going to go get these amazing stories from because I'm not the one. I just have regular old mediocre stories, all right? Chief looking at me like, what the heck is wrong with this dude?
I'm at a loss for words.
Oh, gosh. You know what I have been doing, though? I've been doing house hunting lately, and I'm going to end up with one of those people on the show, the haunting and such, and they're going to be like, they found their dream home. They didn't know. The Carsons didn't know it was inhabited by a demon.
Yep.
That's what always happens. Like, isn't that like the beginning of everyone?
There's a house on the market, and it's a steal.
It's a steal. And I was looking at one, and it seemed like a really good deal. And then we were talking about it, and everybody's like, what if it's cheap because it's the Amityville Horror House?
20 minutes in, good.
I mean, to be honest, if it was really like a scary house, we could just invite the ghosts on the show, get some free content. I mean, what are we complaining about?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think the ghosts they don't go on command. We know that.
EVP interview.
We know Dogman doesn't go on command either.
We don't interviews from the other side.
I'll tell you what. I just don't want to be one of those people, man. I don't want to be one of those people.
Interviews from the dark side.
Wow, way to go. So our sound guy's already screwing up. See, folks, this is why we don't do live, because we were these pendejos over here.
Great, now I'm going to be third string. Now I'm going to the third string.
Oh, shoot. Somebody said that it says, stop complaining. I live in Washington State, and it's 32 degrees, but absolutely beautiful.
90 today in Florida. I'm digging it.
Wow. 90 in Florida. Huh. Well, anyways, folks, what we got going on tonight, we're going to do some stories like we always do. And I brought Tony on and Chief. It was going to be me, Chief, and Sal, but we're going to use Tony as the stand-in for Armando. For Sal, like I said, everybody, Sal is dealing with death in the family. That's very sad. But anyways, we're going to get this started. And what we're going to do tonight, I want to do something a little different. We have some stories lined up. We got some stuff lined up that I would like to talk about, some things that we want to get going, we want to talk about. But we also, for you people in the chat room, we have a big screen up behind us here in the studio. And we want to know if you guys in the chat room have certain subjects that you like to talk about. If you guys can throw a subject out there and I can go into my archives, i.e. my trusty notebook, and maybe bring some of those stories out if I have a story in that category.
prayers out to California.
California with the fires, yes. Mm-hmm. Sad. But I says here, somebody says The Rake, Past Lives, Incubus, Dogman, Bigfoot. Ooh, you guys are just anything. You're just throwing anything.
And that's the show, guys. Thanks
anything and everything. That's what we do. Because, without our stories, we're irrelevant. We've been told that.
That's right. We've been told that. But
Black-eyed kids, look at that. See, that's why we need to get Loki on here and stop. He needs to get his butt over here and tell that story he's got.
He needs to come out of hiding or whatever's going on.
Yeah, well, we're not going to get into that.
Come on.
Let's see. So, Tony, you wanted to start it off, and you wanted to ask me some questions?
Yeah, because normally, you'll tell me some stories, and you'll inform me about, like, hey, what do you think about this? If you ever have time, you'll either do it to me or your wife. And
I do it to you or my wife.
Okay,
wow.
You're taking it out of context, but I'm
That
just
sounds
saying, like, you tell me these
disgusting,
stories
We're
to
live.
get my opinion, because that's what I'm here
if
for.
they're fit for the show.
Yeah, exactly. And you told me one story about a giant, like, I don't want to say exactly what it is, something in the trash, basically.
Oh,
Yeah, just
yes.
I thought
that
it was
story
like, it would
came
be
from Springfield, Illinois. From Springfield, Illinois. That's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sal is not out trick or treating. Unfortunately, Sal is had a death in the family, so that I'm just letting everybody know. That's why he's not here with us tonight. He really wanted to be, and so it's unfortunate. But he's in Houston dealing with that. Sal, if you're listening, we love you, and we hope that everything works out. And so everybody, thoughts and prayers with Sal. So, anyways, yes. The story that you're talking about is I got this story out of Springfield, Illinois, and I think it's very Halloween-y type story. It's one of those things where when we first talked about it, I didn't know what to make of it, but I know that there was a flap in Illinois. Now, Chief, I don't know if you're aware of that. When I was talking to Lon Strickler the other day, he was talking about this flap that had gone on in Illinois.
It was like a time lapse kind of deal.
No. Actually, it was a giant. It was like a giant flying creature that people were seeing that resembled a Mothman,
Avian, cryptid kind of.
Yeah,
deal.
it was. Yeah, and so this was in the back of a restaurant, and somebody had gone out to take the trash out, and it was late at night, and it was a common food chain, which I don't want to even miss or name because I don't know what the ramifications are if we say the name of it. It was a pretty common place. It wasn't like some unusual.
Oh, it's like a chain restaurant.
Yes, and I don't want to say it because I don't know exactly.
Right.
So this person works there, and they went to take the trash out late at night, and they were doing a clean, like where they clean up everything or whatever. So they were taking the trash out, and what they saw like blew their mind, and so what it was the guy went to lift the lid up to the trash can. There's two trash cans side by side from the way I remember the way he was telling me. They went to lift up the lid to one trash can, and the other trash can, something popped out of it.
Wow.
Now, it didn't pop out of it so much as like he saw like these weird looking grayish fingers come out of the side underneath the lid.
Just kind of come out.
Yeah, kind of popped out, and he saw it, and he was like, whoa, what is that? Then the head of this thing popped up, and what he described to me was like something from hell. It sounded like it was like a giant bat-looking creature. Okay. Now, when he was telling me this, I was at work, and I was sitting there next to Scorp, and he was telling us his story, and his voice was shaking, like when he was talking about it. He's like, I've never seen anything, like he's like, I'm into the dog man. He goes, I'm into that. But he's like, my first thought was that it was some sort of creature like that. He goes, but then the top of the lid just boom, like popped open, and this thing just came flying out, and it just shot straight up. And he said that he got a quick glance at it, got a quick look at the whole body. And he described it like as in an ashen, grayish black creature with a upturned nose that almost looked like a pig nose.
Wow. And
then it had these weird bat-looking ears, and that it had hands like claws, and the arms were attached to these like wet, leathery like wing type whatever.
So it was more
membranous
like
wings, I think is the word he used.
More like bat wing, not more like bird wing.
Yeah, it was
Kinda
bat-like.
like
Yeah, and in
leathery,
fact,
not
he described it when he was describing it to us. It was kind of like it was like a bat, like man. It's like I didn't want to say Batman because that sounds silly.
Not
but
DC Comics.
Well,
Yeah,
when you
like
told me
bat.
about it, the first thing I thought of was man bat, which is just a giant bat.
Well, it took me
basically.
a few minutes to wrap my mind kind of around what he was
bipedal
describing.
bat
Yeah,
kind of deal going on.
but it flew and it was gone.
I know from
Now, how far is Springfield from Chicago? Because I know Chicago's had the whole bat flap thing, and this happened in 2017.
Huh? No, I don't know how far they are.
I don't know how far
here,
apart they are. If somebody in the chat room could tell me that, I'd appreciate that.
I know from Three Rivers all the way down to the valley, they spot like pterodactyl type avian.
Well, that's here in
cryptids.
Texas, but
That's
I have
here,
not
but-
heard of a giant bat type creature.
Yeah, I haven't heard in that region. I know the Mothman has been sighted all over the world. So, but I know that
Very common in
Very common
Illinois
up
as
there
of late. There's been a lot of talk of that creature. Okay, well, I'm being interrupted here because somebody's looming over me. You're very tall, sir, and you're standing over me. You're in my AO.
he's lurched for Halloween.
Oh God, this is live, so you're just really jacking it up over here, just staring at stuff. Look at him, creepy. So anyway, my nephew, he's like 6'5", and he's like looming over me. I don't know what he's doing, but he's about to get punched. So, so we got this. Like it says, Josh, that sounds like someone's mother-in-law. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Shout out to David Pratt.
David Pratt, he's always on our. Hey, David, what's up?
Happy
man?
Halloween, bud.
Happy Halloween. He's always defending us over there. So, what do you think of that? You, the listeners, tell me. I don't know what that is. I don't know what to think of that. But I will say this, Chief. Do you remember when we talked about the Mayan, the deity Camazotz?
Yeah, Kamazat. Yeah, we were talking about it.
Camazotz.
I think that was my last episode. We were talking about it.
Now I was going to save that one as another story that I got that relates to that I was going to talk about. I was telling my wife the other day, we were looking at some of the encounters that we had been given, and I was explaining to her, having talked to one of these people about the whole Camazotz thing.
Well,
There was a guy down in Mexico. Now we're going to go to Mexico on this little trip, and I'm going to tell you about this. This was really crazy. But let me finish up this other encounter. I'm getting ahead of myself here. That was the end of it. I mean, pretty much. But the guy said that for like days after that, he was having nightmares. He was having all kinds of like weird stuff happening that were paranormal, like very, very like paranormal type activity. When he was at his house,
some more spiritual.
it
not
was
so
like
much
he
cryptid.
He didn't get visited by this thing or anything like that, but he was having nightmares that were just like not normal for him.
Traumatic residual effect.
Possibly.
Do you think that maybe it's like when you see something, it kind of like lets you into that world of the supernatural, so then you just are like hyper tuned?
It opens the door.
So you
Yeah,
just-
I
you just
believe
notice
that
it a little
there's
more?
for the proverbial veil
Mhm.
drops, or you're more sensitive to stuff, to paranormal incidents or occurrences.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I can't tell you.
We got a confirmation on that end. They said the sound sounds good, Anthony.
Does it sound good to you guys out there in
YouTube land.
YouTube land? Because Anthony is really like, he's on us, man. This guy, you don't realize
This guy's
how
like a hawk in here.
it is. He's very. When he's on us, dude, and we're just very nervous because Anthony's a very mean guy.
Yeah, I mean, you guys always.
Anthony, why are you so mean?
Why is it that I always have to hit you guys with the wet
Dirty.
noodle? But
I'm
like,
the reason that y'all make good content because I'm constantly whipping and flogging y'all in shape.
yeah, but I get blamed
Dirty
for it.
lashes every time they got to.
You enjoy it though. You're like, "Rah, rah, rah, rah." Get to the show, entertain the people. I'm like, oh my gosh.
We're gonna hang you from the yard arm.
Know your place.
No, your place.
The listeners are not your subjects; you're theirs. So,
Oh my gosh, man,
Yeah.
that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Place my mat.
Where you gonna go? Where you gonna go when you die? You're gonna be in hell doing this show for all eternity, just entertaining the guests. That's
Except you got
horrible.
terrible audio.
You can't get it to work. So I think that, see, Josh B, he says this sounds like a demonic type entity. I agree with that. I think it's agree with that. I don't know what it is.
I agree. Maybe
I
a
couldn't tell you.
shapeshifter kind of deal going on.
I don't know. I just know that that's the story he gave me. Nothing else came of that. He didn't have any other experiences. He said that nothing else has happened to him. That was pretty much it. Makes me wonder if whatever he was experiencing.
So we got back to bats in Brazil. They are called bat people.
Bat people.
No.
So is this like a thing in Brazil that people see these things? I haven't heard of this.
We're gonna have to research that.
We're gonna have to research that.
We're gonna have to research that. I'm gonna jot that.
You said something about some residual effects afterwards. Did he go into detail about any of that? Like, what exactly happened?
I remember him saying something about that he was having nightmares, but it didn't have anything to do with like the bat-like creature that crawled out of the trash can. And I did ask, kind of jokingly, if you're listening, sir, I'm not making light of you or fun of your story, but I did make a joke, and I said maybe he was in the mood to eat stuff that you guys are selling there. I kind of made a joke about it, and he was like, well, he didn't laugh, and it didn't make him less nervous. He was just kind of like...
He was 100% serious.
Yeah, he was kind of like, okay, like that's not funny to him.
It's like automatically,
so I was kind of like, I was like, I'm not making fun of you, sir. Please don't take it that way. I just, you get stories, and sometimes people tell you stories that are just kind of like, and I'm not comparing it to any of that. No, I've gotten stories from people who are like, yo, this one guy had us going, he was like, oh yeah, I was talking to Dog Man, and like he had me going on this, Then he started talking like he was talking to Dog Man.
Oh yeah, I got Cthulhu on speed dial.
And then he started getting into like this whole sexual innuendo thing with Dog Man, and I'm just like, okay, dude, all right, yeah, I'm really done with you, okay. And so I actually ended up having to block the guy because he kept trying to get a hold of me, and they started posting stuff on Facebook.
The
so I was like,
with the female Dog Man, that was that guy?
yes, dude, yes. And funny because D. Doss had said it was almost like he might have thought it might have been the same guy that he had talked to or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just know the guy was talking about some sort of sexual thing with Dog Man, and I'm just like, oh god, dude, this guy.
That's correct. In Mexico, the Mayans worship the death bat.
Camosats. That was what they called
them.
It was. So we're gonna go to Mexico now because like I said, there's threads. Now, when I got this story, I got it about 3 weeks ago. Okay, so I thought, you know what? Why not put that one for Halloween, because there's so much of the bat type. So we're gonna do kind of a paranormal potluck here. So what we're doing here, I'm going to tell you another story. Chief, you might find this one interesting. This guy lived in Mexico City, okay, with his old lady, as they say. What do you call it? He's Jaina.
With his Jaina, that's
Jaina.
the cholos, yeah.
The cholo.
Jainita.
But he's not a cholo. He's from Mexico. So, anyways,
his esposa.
His esposa.
His wife.
His esposa, yeah. So him and his girl, before they got married, when he was real young, because he said he's like in his 30s now, but when he was young in his like teenage years, when he was like not even 20 years old yet, his current wife, which was his fiance at the time, girlfriend, whatever, they had gone out to visit her parents. Now, her parents live in way south of Mexico, in the very southern part, like our friend Beto. Remember, Beto was from southern Mexico. And he told us some crazy stories back in the day. I know you've heard him talk about the weird lizard stuff. And well, this story reminded me of that because that area it was the Mayan territory. And now he said that they were driving down a back road. Now, if you can imagine a back dirt country road here in Texas, it's pretty desolate. Now, imagine in southern Mexico.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's like anything goes. So he's down there in southern Mexico with his soon-to-be wife, whatever, and he felt like there was something weird on the property when they were there. Now, her tío had said that there were some strange things that would go on that property. The ranch that they lived on was 72 acres, so it was a pretty big-sized place.
Right.
And he said that he stayed there for 2 days, and that at night he would hear this weird screeching noise. and that one time they were out in a little tank, or I guess you call it a tank, the pond that was man-made, that was where the horses and
like a stock tank. So
stock tank, and they were fishing.
Right.
And he heard something screech, and he saw something fly over, and the Theo, who they thought was like crazy, because he would say, "Hey, there's something that flies around out here."
Because most Theos are crazy.
if you're an uncle, that Theo means uncle in Spanish. So if you're a Theo, you're crazy. We know that.
I'm that Theo.
Well, so am I. I raised 3 of my nephews. I'm definitely crazy. So let me tell you something. So crazy uncle says, "Oh, that is a entity that flies around out here." He says it won't hurt you unless you offend it.
Hmm.
And he's just like, okay. So
Sounds
this dude's
very
like
Lechusa-like.
sort of Lechusa-like, yes. I guess you could say that. So what ended up happening, they were driving home after a couple days being there on the weekend. They were driving home on a Sunday night, I believe he said. And this screeching, whatever it was, he could hear it. Like just really, they had the windows down. It was a nice cool night, or a nice breezy night. And this thing, the screeching creature, entity, whatever, flew over the top of the car. Now, I asked him, I said, how did you know it was this screeching entity flying over the top of the car? Because he said it was following them for about a mile. He said, you could hear it. It was loud. And he said that my wife was screaming at, I mean, they were teenagers. Imagine how terrifying they were. She knew nothing of this entity. She didn't know what the uncle was talking about. The mom and dad had kind of just played it off like whatever, This wasn't something that she grew up with. She didn't know what it was. And this thing swooped down and slammed into the top of the car. Now, this thing latched onto the top of the car and stuck a weird-looking hand through the open window and began to tug at her and pull her hair.
Wow.
Now, he shook it off. Like he said that he was driving. He was beginning to lose control. And this thing kind of came off. And he said when it came off, they saw it fly off to the right of the car and then go just zoom, straight like it was flying supernatural. It was not flying like a normal creature. Like it was moving. You know what I mean? Like it moved unnaturally. And then it zipped back around. That was my words, not his, but it zipped back around. And it came back through the back of the car and got down onto the trunk. The car that they had was he said it was a big old boat of a car, and I can't remember the name of the kind of car he said it was.
Like a big old Lincoln or something.
Yeah, he said the name of the car. I'm so terrible with the names of cars too, and I was trying to write as quick as I could, But anyway, I can look it up, but I'll have to go look it up. He said it was a big boat of a car. Now, this story was given to me a while back. Like, I've had this one for a while. I've been saving it for the Flying Cryptids episode, but I figured why not throw it out at Halloween because it goes along with what this guy told me in Illinois. So it landed on the back of the car, and he got a good look at it, and he said that it looked like a bat. In the face, it looked like a bat. It had a weird-looking nose. Now, when you research a vampire bat, it has that upturned nose.
Up kind of upwards, inverted nose.
It's so weird looking with the little lines on it, whatever.
I dig it. I got one right here on me.
Oh, yeah, you do. Your tattoo. Forgot you're covered in tattoos. You're gross. But anyway, so this guy was looking at the back of the car, and he said it looked like demonic. And I asked him about eyes. They didn't report that it was like the eyes were shining or anything like that. There was no glowing red eyes. No, neither one of these people that had these encounters. Now, I didn't talk to what would become his wife. I didn't talk to her about it. Now, she might have said something completely different, like the thing was demonic. It looked like whatever. I don't know. But he said his wife said it just looked absolutely demonic. But he said it was definitely flesh and blood. And that it just temporarily was on the back of the car, and he got a good look at it through the rearview mirror. And then the rest of the time, he was trying to get back to the main road because it was a winding dirt and gravel road. That this thing had crawled over the top of the car and began to harass him and was pulling on him and trying to get him out of the car.
That's unreal.
And he said that this went on. I mean, he said it was a good 10 minutes of just the wife was hysterical. And it completely left her alone at that point and was just focused on him.
Can you imagine a whole flock of those things?
I couldn't imagine one of them, dude. I
Yeah,
can't
I'm
even
trying to
imagine one.
picture
I've
one.
never seen anything like this in my life. How could I imagine one of them?
Now, when you say hand, did he describe it? Or
Yes, yes, he did. He was like, he said it was like a
bat-like?
weird looking hand, and he said that when it reached in to grab him, he got a good look at the hand, and that it had like webbing almost in between the fingers, and that the fingers were like short and stubby.
So it was like a humanoid.
He
hand,
said it
but
was
with
brown. It was a
bat-like
brown
webbing?
color. It was brownish black. That's a different color than the guy from Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah, that guy said gray.
Yeah, but when you think about this creature, it's a very similar description.
I mean, other species have different. I mean, how do we know that there's not one in every color? You know,
Well,
Yeah.
You got
I mean-
speckled dogs. You got spotted albino, blue. You know, there might be all kinds of varieties of one different species of cryptid. You know.
well,
what I
of
mean?
course, just like Sasquatch.
Right.
I think that this thing. Now, here's what's weird. He said that now for days after the attack, he got to the main road. It veered off and it left almost instantly when he got to the main road. Now, here's what's weird. Check this. His wife is a Mayan descended person, right? He himself, his family is originally from Mexico City. They're Indios from Mexico, right?
Right.
Which would be predominantly Aztec, like blood.
Right.
The Mayans and the Aztecs
Aztec
weren't friends.
Mayans.
They were not friends. They were mortal enemies, and they fought, and they were trying to genocide each other when the Spaniards came. So I just thought that was interesting, that maybe there was some sort of connection there. Why it initially went for her, then left her alone, and then just completely went after him, and why he was constantly hearing this thing, and the only one that seemed to acknowledge it was the Tío.
Perhaps it was after him the entire time.
That's what I'm wondering. Because the Tío seemed to say that it was benign, that it wouldn't really mess with you unless you offended it.
You think by choosing her because they're, actually, as you said,
Maybe his face was offensive.
that's all it
Is it
takes sometimes.
Inte feo? El sapo feo. You look like a frog. We don't want you.
He looked like a frog stood up and put jeans on, bro. What's going on? That was a
man.
good guess. Gargoyle. Somebody said gargoyle.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just...
I saw some things saying like Jeepers Creepers type stuff, like just the randomness of the attack and stuff.
Yeah, there was another kind of
Josh Blake says,
similarity.
why do parents lie to their kids? They tell us Santa is real and monsters don't exist. You know what? That's a good question, Josh. I've always wondered that. I mean,
Hey, chill
I guess
out.
because they don't want their kids to be...
My kids are listening.
To protect
Santa
you and give
is
them
still
hope.
real. Kids,
I mean-
if y'all are at home.
Oh, no. What is your
pretty
youngest? How's your youngest? I mean, not the baby, but the other one.
We got 3, 5.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Santa Claus is very real. folks.
Very, very real.
Oh my gosh. but the kukui is not, okay?
We don't do the elf on a shelf at Chiefy's house. We have what's called the faja or a cinturón. And that's what
You mean you don't have Krampus come and beat the crap out of your kids?
No, we got the belt, bro.
That's the Krampus. It causes the Krampus all over your culo.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, so anyways, let's get back to this creature. Now, guys, you guys at home listening or wherever you're listening from or whatever,
King River, California pterodactyls.
what
Exciting.
do you guys think these things are? Is this Camazotz? Is it a what is Camazotz like? What do you call it? The avatar of Camazotz? Is that what it is?
Maybe it's an ancient cryptid, and that's what these guys started worshiping.
Yeah, maybe
You know
they
what I
just
mean?
That's where it came
misidentified
from,
right?
kind of like Zippy Totec
Right.
was the
Yeah.
jaguar-headed guy.
right? You hear a lot of folklore from just about every region about a certain animal, and what's to say that people don't start worshiping, you know what I mean, that cryptid or whatever's seen in that region. I think that's pretty common all over the world.
Yeah, I think it's a common theme that I guess the region, because spirits seem to have a common regional theme too.
I mean, what's to say somebody? You got a bunch of dogman sightings. I'm pretty sure there is more than one civilization in our past that has started worshiping the dogman.
Worshipping
Yeah,
some
sure.
sort of.
Something similar. You could probably find examples of that with all kinds of animals.
Michael Moran says giant bat creatures very similar to harpies. Yeah, Sort of, but these creatures aren't. Now, I had some stories that I've gotten from some flying cryptids. I'll be doing a show on that too soon, Michael. But the harpy is a little different. The harpy is like a female. It's got the female face.
It's like female and bird.
It
basically.
sounds almost like a lechuza, you know. And by the way, Michael Moran, folks, he is the guy that started Cryptid Squad. So I was given the privilege of being an admin in that group. So, folks, if you want to go and subscribe to that group, and by the way, the spelling, it's all on him. He spelled it wrong, not me, okay? Everybody has been bombarding me with like, you don't know how to spell. Look at how you spelled that. I'm like, I did not spell that. And Michael did it really quickly. He wasn't thinking. He just did it because he wanted to try to get a place for people to go, you know, because of all the stuff that was going on.
Everything is subject to change and be edited. We're just spelling. We're not backing up semi.
He's going to change the spelling, but it's going to take 28 days, folks.
Yeah. Well, 27 now.
27 days. And then, so until then, we're just going to be in a group that has a funny name, okay?
Female
Squad.
Squad.
Right, Michael? Michael
like,
knows that's true.
That sounds like a square in Jersey. That's
Michael's a good guy.
Hey,
he lives.
square, get the car there.
It was the cops. It was the cops in the squad car. The squad.
I just wanted one of them sausages.
Hey, you see?
Yeah, see? So Michael's a good guy. Much love to you, Michael. I spent some time talking the other
Big
night.
shout out to Michael Moran.
Yeah, Michael Moran, Texas guy. He was doing some research down in Burnett. Not too long ago, we got stories. Chief, you know about that.
Burnett Bulldog.
Yep, Burnett, Texas, where there's a lot of dogman sightings and stuff out there. Pretty crazy. So, Tony, what else did you have that you wanted to ask?
Let's talk about the Scarecrow one. You know.
Oh yes, another Halloween themed one. That one comes from Iowa. Okay, now I don't know if I told you this one, Chief.
Children of the Corn.
Children of the Corn.
He wants you too, Malachi. I mean, he don't just want me. He wants us all. I mean, come on.
And your cousin, too.
To be fair.
You know. So anyway, oh my gosh, that you know what? That scared the crap out of me as a kid, dude.
It scared the crap out
The
of me,
little
too.
kid was the creepiest one,
Yeah, he
too,
was.
man. Like the little one. What was his name?
I don't. The red-haired tall guy was
Malachi.
kind of. That guy was scary too.
But not like the little one, the little short one. He was so creepy, dude.
Yeah, he was.
Let me tell you something. In my church I went to, there was a kid that kind
It
of
was
looked
his
like
voice.
that guy. There was a guy that looked like him.
At your church?
Yes.
What did you go to school with? Church with Morbins?
No, Morbids.
Morbids.
No, dude.
Mormons.
It was so weird. It was just a creepy guy. He was a creepy kid, but I mean, he was a little
Mennonite?
older than me, but he was nice, but he just seemed fake.
I remember
little corn-growing Mennonites.
watching that movie with my sister, and you know, it was just us in the house because my mom was at work, and I think for like a couple days afterward, I would just stand around in weird places just to freak her out. I mean, it was something I used to do.
Children of the
Like just
Corn.
late at night, I would just stand in her bedroom.
Oh wait, which
door.
sister? Talking about
Just
Cindy?
creeping her out?
Cindy.
You would mess with Cindy.
I would just stand around like that. I got
Folks,
to the point
his
to where she would
sister
just hit me.
Cindy is the nicest person, and so you shouldn't be doing that to her.
Yeah.
Now the other one, Leah, she's mean as heck. He can do that to her. She's mean.
I was too old at that point.
I don't know. You know, Mexicans are like, hey, these guys got elote. You know,
got
that's,
elote.
that's how they got us.
Sí,
That's how they
sí.
sucked us in, man.
That's it.
I got the mayo and the Parmesan.
They sell that right there on Runberg. Every day I'm going to work, I see them selling it right there in the parking lot.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
You got
dude,
the address?
It's like an open air flea market over there, dude. And the other side they're selling crack.
Oh,
So
no,
it's just it's pretty bad.
hold the crack.
Hold the crack. I'll take some elote. Hold the
Take
crack.
Elote, hold the crack. Hold the crack.
So guys, here's what was going on. Okay, I got this story out of Iowa. Now this guy, he's a fully grown man now. This happened to him when he was a kid. This is absolutely the only Scarecrow story I've ever gotten. And this guy sent it to me a few months back. And I thought about it, and I told my wife about it, and she's like, let's hang on to that one until Halloween time. So I just was like, you know what? That's a good idea. So we're going to tell that story. This is a kind of a sad story the way it starts out. Now the kid, he's not a kid anymore. He's actually about my age. But when he was a kid, his parents died in an automobile accident. And he was only 7 years old. Bless his heart. That's pretty sad. That's a bummer. But he went to go live with his maternal grandparents in Iowa. He lived in Colorado. And so his grandparents lived in Iowa. So he ended up moving to Iowa. he said that he had gone there a few times. He wasn't real close with them. They only went like once a year, maybe, if that. And then there were a couple years where he didn't go because before his parents had the car accident, there was kind of a falling out. So he didn't remember them from the time he was like 5. So he just remembered that when he would go to stay in that house, that there was some weird stuff that was going on. And this is kind of a little bit of a drawn out story. As a child, you have a vivid imagination. And I'll be real honest, when he first told me this story, I thought, okay, well, this is a kid's imagination. But this thing hounded him for years. So it's not like it was just, and then I'll give you my, is it synopsis? Is that the word you call it? Synopsis, whatever. I'll give you what I think of it when it's, and then you guys can tell me what you think of it. The first night he was there, it rained. And, of course, he's very sad. He had to go to the funeral of his parents. It was very traumatic. That can also cause psychosis, things like that.
Very much so.
But he was laying in his bed, and he looks out the window, and he sees the lightning and everything, and he stares at this scarecrow, and it instantly reminded him of why he hated to be on that property.
Okay.
Because the scarecrow to him was very, very ugly and very evil and very menacing, and he did not understand its purpose because, let's be honest, scarecrows don't really work. But old timers, like my grandparents' age, they really believed that they would scare birds off. But as we know,
right, Farmer's Almanac.
No, they're smarter.
Crows are too smart. Crows are very smart. They're not scared of those things.
Yeah.
They'll actually sit on top of them. I mean, they don't even use the straw to build their nest. They don't care. Yeah. So this kid, there was a scarecrow that would sit. It was standing in the field, and there were cornfields all the way around the house because they were corn farmers. Now he told me that every night he would go to sleep, he would stare out the window, which did not, and this is another thing, the windows, he lived on the upstairs, the second floor, this farmhouse had no blinds, no curtains, no nothing.
That's not creepy.
Yeah, it was just a creepy tree right outside the window, and then there was like the cornfield. And so he could look out the window and just see this scarecrow just sitting in the field. Well, things began to happen in the house. He began to notice at night he would hear the stairs, which were old. This house was over 100 years old when he moved into it. The stairs would creak at night, like somebody was walking up and down the stairs. And, of course, it escalated from there. There were things that would tap on the glass at night, and he would wake up.
Were they at the Lizzie Borden house?
No. This thing would tap on the glass, whatever it was, and then it escalated. Like I said, that his door would open like part way, and he began to hear whispering and talking, which sounded like what he said was a muffled man's raspy voice.
Wow.
Coming from the hallway, and that he would just lay there and he would cover his head, and then sometimes he would be laying there with his head covered, and he didn't see anything coming into the room, but he could hear like boom, 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 like something run up to the bed, and it was like right there next to him.
Couldn't see it, but he could feel it.
Yeah, well, he had his head covered with the blanket.
Yeah, because that's how you protect yourself from everything.
Well, as a kid, that's the only thing you got. I mean, you're going to cover it up. So he tried, and I asked him, I said, why didn't you try talking to your, he's like, that was no use. I mean, he's like, I talked to my grandfather. My grandfather was not into listening to what I had to say. He told him to knock it off, quit. He was very gruff, not a very loving man.
Very stern.
Very stern, very stoic. The grandmother was a little more understanding, warm. Yeah, a little more receptive. Tried to be comforting, and consoling to him. And they would say the Lord's Prayer together, and he said that it seemed to help when they would pray, whatever. And there was a time when the grandmother, I guess his great aunt had gotten really ill, so the grandmother had gone into town, which was, he said, about, I think he said it was like 15 miles into town or something like that. So she was staying in town for a couple days trying to help her. The grandfather was always out with this guy's uncle. They were always out working and doing stuff around, and he had chores too, but he also had school. And so he said that it was one weekend, he was there all alone in the house, and he fell asleep watching television on the couch. And it was broad daylight, and there was a knock on the door. He wakes up, he sees, because they had one of those doors with the glass in the middle of the door, he sees this, what looks like a scarecrow looking like creature, but he's like, it was like the scarecrow that was in the field, but it was animated.
Okay.
Now, when I asked him about that, I said, "Do you mean like cartoonish looking?" He goes, "No, it wasn't cartoonish looking. It wasn't
alive, like moving.
It was like it was moving, like animated. It was moving, but it was moving like almost like a puppet."
Okay.
And he says that he was staring right at it, and so he got up and he ran into the kitchen, and he looked out the window, and the scarecrow was not in the field. In the field, yes.
Wow.
Okay, so then he says that when he just sat there shaking at the kitchen table, did not want to move. So then, now get this part. Now this is kind of weird. He went to sleep with his head down on the kitchen table. He wakes up and it's dark, but he's actually on the couch still. Wow. So that made me question when he said that part. I had to ask him, can you repeat that? I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I just wanted you to repeat it. And so if you're listening, you know who you are. And so you repeated the story to me that way, or he repeated the story to me. And I was like, do you think that maybe you went to sleep and that was a dream? Now, he said he didn't discount that because he did wake up on the couch. The deal was though, there was another time they had one of those wraparound porches that went around most of the house.
Right.
Now, he said he was in the back playing. He had a little game he would play because he was all alone out there, poor kid. And he would play in the back because he didn't want to be on the side where the scarecrow was because it scared him. Now, he said that he was playing one day and he was kicking a ball around in the backyard. He was kicking it against this like a small shed. And his grandfather had called him and told him, hey, go to the barn, run an errand for me. He yells to him. Now, he didn't like going out to the barn because to get to the barn, he had to go by that area where the scarecrow was. So he grabs his ball and he goes walking toward the barn. Now, he said that he was kicking the ball around like soccer, like he was soccer style kicking the ball around. And he just kind of moved the ball a little bit and the ball shot out into the cornfield when he walked by the scarecrow, which was unusual. Like, he was like, I was just kicking it around, like whatever. And the ball just went boosh, like out into the cornfield.
Like something kicked it over there.
Or pulled it.
Right.
Or something happened, yeah. And so he was like staring, and he said that he was just scared. He was just standing there shaking. He was like, and it rolled right toward this the scarecrow. And so he was like, I didn't even go get it. I just sat there. I just stood there stunned, And so I ran to the barn. Now, he said he ran to the barn. He got what he needed to do. He got what he needed to get, whatever. And he ran back to, I think he said something about chicken feed or something like that. Got what he needed and went back. And his grandfather's like, boy, why are you taking so long getting onto him? Now, his grandfather never hit him, but he got onto him a lot and he berated him. And he overheard him telling the grandmother about the scarecrow and the problems with the scarecrow. So the grandfather got onto him and told him, too bad, the scarecrow's not going anywhere. It's got a job to do, as we all do, was his grandfather's words. And the scarecrow's going to stay out there to scare the living crap out of you for all eternity. I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. But that's kind of what he was saying, like pretty much we're not doing anything about it. It's just going to be there. So the kid got to the point where he was crying himself to sleep at night because he was convinced that this thing was alive, and it was messing with him,
Mm-hmm. I think it's remarkable either way because normally when you go through something traumatic, they say that if you experience something after that trauma, you're not really going to remember that. So if it did occur and he does remember it, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it stayed with him.
It stayed with him. It scarred him. It emotionally scarred him.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it could also be a coping mechanism. You know, he is young.
Well, see, now you're analyzing it before we're even done.
Well, I'm just
Okay?
giving it the whole. I'm
You're
just giving it.
just
both.
trying to. You're just
Well, I see
trying
what you're
to.
saying. Maybe he like
Trying to
just
analyze.
saying it's remarkable
this
either
story.
way.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's finish the story before you give the analytics here. Okay. Because
I'm gonna go sit in the corner.
Well, I just want to point out, you know how bad at a job you got to be, where your job is to scare crows away, and you end up just scaring this poor kid.
scaring an 8-year-old kid,
come on.
7-year-old.
Messed up, man.
Well, so time goes on.
I think
right?
there's labor laws about that.
It's pretty bad. So there's time goes on, and he said that he turned 8, then he turned 9, then he turned 10, and something happened to him when he was 10. And he said he went through a rough period where he was being bullied at school because he had gone from, I guess, grade school into another school. I think he said he was 10 or 11 or something like that. And he had to switch schools. And he said that one of the things that was going on that happened to him was that this thing, whatever it was, began to what is it? What are you looking at?
My wife was late twice.
Okay. Your life
From
that's
J.C. Dova.
Dova. My
Shout
wife
out
was late
to
twice.
J.C. Dova.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways,
I think there might be like pills or something for that.
so what ends up happening is this guy has this problem with this Scarecrow. What are you doing? I'm sorry, folks. This is why we don't do live. Because Chief is over here cracking himself up. Oh my gosh. Anyways, let me finish the story. So all joking aside here, the Scarecrow, this thing started to show up in his room at night. It had never gone into the room that he had seen. He would just hear the voices and he would cover his head. But he said at this point, it began to materialize at the foot of his bed. Now, I say materialize because I still think that it was something demonic.
It's demonic, spiritual, definitely.
He said that there were things that would happen in the house, but it was really minor. It was like, okay, he would come back to his room and a toy would be moved, stuff like that. Nothing that was like oh, you're gonna. This isn't The Conjuring, all right? It was just a bunch of weird
stigmatas and stuff.
No, there wasn't blood on the walls,
right.
nothing like that. He just said little stuff. He had like a sailboat model that he had made, and it was on the ground. And then toys would be kind of moved, just very innocuous. Not anything that was like just oh my gosh, you're gonna be like, dude, this is crazy. This is something that's just off the chain, scaring me. Mm-hmm. It was just the Scarecrow, but he said that it was always that Scarecrow. Now, here's another thing that happened to him. Here's another part of the story that was pretty creepy. He said one day he invited a friend over. He had one friend that lived not far down the road, and they would play together. So this friend and him were alone in the morning on a Saturday morning, and they were eating cereal at the kitchen table. And the friend turns and looks out the window and sees this entity standing in the window, and it scared him, and he screamed. So I guess I should say the back door window because it was a window to the back door. And he said that he screamed and the kid spilt his cereal or whatever. So the guy asked him what it was that scared him, and his friend said there was a scarecrow standing on the back porch staring at me. And he said that the scarecrow, now I asked him to describe it. He said that it had hollowed out eyes and that when it would appear moving around or in the house, that it had a mouth that would move. And he said that the teeth looked like they were part of the mask. Now, when I asked him to describe that, I said, what does it look like? He said jagged teeth like a jack-o'-lantern. Like if you cut a jack-o'-lantern's teeth, that's what it looked like. But that it had the stuffing coming out of it.
So like
that
Venom,
it was made with cotton and straw.
So
that's
Venom
what it was made
and
with.
a Scarecrow had a love child.
I guess.
That's
I mean,
what I'm
I don't know how to describe
That's what I'm
that.
picturing.
So this is what the thing looked like, and when it would appear to him in his room, it never touched him until he got a little older. Now he said that once he got older, he was probably, I think he said in 7th or 8th grade, and he said that this thing was showing up and appearing in his bedroom on a regular basis, like as he was going through puberty, like it was happening more frequent.
Wow.
Which means to me like it's feeding on some sort of energy. Yes. Now, he said that this thing eventually got to the point where it was attacking him physically. Once it grabbed him, pulled him out of his bed. Then reality began to kind of bleed together with nightmares because he was dreaming about it, and it was in his bed one day, and he was wrestling with it when he was like 15, I think he said. And he said that he woke up and there was nothing there, and he was literally just fighting with and tearing apart a feathered pillow. Now, here's the weird thing about that part. He said as he got up and he went to the bathroom, he comes out of the shower and he sees straw. Pieces of straw laying in the hallway going into his bedroom. And they said he was 15 years old when that happened. Now, he said that this thing, it was becoming to the point where it was like he had made up his mind that when he turned 17, 18, he was going to move out. Like, he was not going to live there anymore. His relationship with his grandfather was up and down, but by the time he was a teenager and all this stuff was going on, his grandfather thought he was crazy.
He had enough.
Accused him of being on drugs and drinking and things like that. Now, he did admit to me that he started drinking at an early age, that he was about 14, 15 when he began to sneak booze and drink.
I don't blame him, to be honest.
I'm pretty sure rock and roll was involved.
Everything that he had to go through. It makes sense to me.
It was Footloose.
But did the outlaw dancing in the town.
That's what did it. But so anyway, what ended up happening was this thing chased him, in his dreams. It was showing up. He got to the point where he was very withdrawn. He didn't talk to his grandfather hardly at all. They weren't speaking by the time he moved away. Now, he moved into town with a friend, and one of the things that happened was when he was packing up his stuff the day he moved out. He was 17 when he moved out, and I can relate to that. I was that age when I moved out.
I was too.
Never moved out, never came back. Tony, you came to live with us officially when you were 17. But
dude, they left me at Fiesta Mart when I was 7. I'm just kidding.
You know how traumatic that is? Hey, the shelves are all 4 feet tall, though. You can reach anything.
Now every time I'm in there, I can just hear a little kid going, "Appa, Appa." Oh no, that might be me though. I don't know.
No, that's definitely you.
It's got to be.
Well, I don't
me.
shop at Fiesta, to be honest.
One of the few places, folks, where
I'm looking for my family.
You can still get a full-size pig head there at Fiesta.
Full-size pig head. You get the whole chicharron, bro.
Yeah.
The whole side of skin.
What's crazy, though, so anyway, what's crazy is this guy was driving his car into town, moving out once and for all. This thing popped up in the back of his back seat of his car, and it literally reached for him while he was driving, and he ran off into a ditch and ended up scraping his car up, hitting a barbed wire fence, and almost, having a really bad wreck. Once again, he gets out of the car. There's nothing there. He doesn't see anything. There's nothing there. But he does find the telltale signs of this entity. There was straw that was in the seat and in the back seat. So now that gets me to the $1 million question: is like, what was this? Now, was this something that attached to him because of his psyche, because of the way it was whenever he had the trauma? Or was there something that was already there living on that land and it attached itself to a little boy, and because demons are merciless and evil, and that it did something to this kid, and it's not over yet. Now, he said that years later, he was grown. He's got 3 kids now. He's works for a tractor supply company. He's a sales guy, whatever. And that he said that his youngest daughter now is having dreams, nightmares, that a scarecrow was chasing her and him.
Wow.
His grandparents are long gone. They're dead. They died. His grandfather died 2 years after he moved out when he was 19. Well, we've discussed that in one of our other episodes, folks. The Mexican folklore. We discussed the whole curse, like the
black magic deal.
Hexes.
I don't know.
Family curse.
Well, I saw a comment that said object possession, basically saying like something possessed that scarecrow and just used it to basically scare the kid and feed to feed off of the kid because of his mindset at the time, which was in pain.
I'm in love with the idea.
There's another one. She just said land curse. That could be it too.
Land curse, yeah.
And the grandfather was completely unwilling to do anything. I mean, it was horrible. And he told me that there were other stories that pertained to this, but that was the main one. Now, I got back with this guy pretty quickly because I had never gotten a story and haven't since of a scarecrow. So that to me, and folks, I'm going to tell you something. If you don't know who I am, you don't know about me, I'm nobody. But if you don't know me from the show,
I'm just a humble, tiny man.
So here's the thing. I'm from Taylor, Texas. I had a sighting of what we call a dog man when I was 15 years old. This is, in fact, the 29th anniversary of that.
Well, happy anniversary, bro.
Well, thank you.
On Halloween. Happy
On Halloween, yes.
Halloween.
Now, I've had many good Halloweens since that terrifying night.
And no bickering on the thread, guys. We're not that kind of a show. Dun, dun, dun.
Who says that?
I don't know. Somebody was saying.
We're always
there
that
were a
kinda-
couple
Somebody
people
was
just
saying, be
talking,
nice.
but,
We're gonna fight. When this is over, we're gonna beat the crap out of each other. That's what we do.
So we end every
just
show.
violent.
We end every show with
just-
fights. Me and
that's
Sal
all
fight
we
all the
do.
time. They don't
We're just-
realize that.
We're out
It
here
brings
just
you
hate
closer.
mongering and instigating and whatnot.
So what do you think of that, Tony? Give me your opinion of that. Wow, Tony, that was interesting. So, Chief, what do you think?
I'm in love with the idea that
That's interesting too.
perhaps
Moving on.
Perhaps there was a death and the body was utilized part of that scarecrow. So that spirit didn't get to rest. And the whole time the scarecrow was just trying to get them to put him in the ground.
Sounds like a movie, Chief. I'm not gonna lie.
Like,
I mean, I just think that it's
I'm in love with it.
Sounds
It's
like
a
a
demon.
movie.
I'm
Like,
in love with
it's a
it.
demon. I think that it's just
Yeah,
something
demon.
that used the form of the scarecrow because I think he was already originally scared of it, and he just empowered
Yeah,
that. And
that's
used
what
it
I
to-
think,
to-
too.
to-
I mean,
Manifested it even more,
yeah,
fed
exactly.
it.
Just to scare the kid even more because he knew he didn't like that scarecrow.
it was ugly.
They're
and
already
scary.
creepy.
Yeah, I mean,
They are
scarecrow.
creepy.
People say clowns, but I think scarecrows like. Ew. You're walking in a field and you just see that. It's real creepy.
Well, I don't know if it's lore. I mean, it could be urban legend, but I read that someone bought a ranch and that they found a partial carcass in the scarecrow.
I heard that too. Are you talking about down in what the heck is that town? Down in South Texas.
It was a
right?
reed. I know it was.
You're talking about South Texas,
I don't
part of the
believe
King.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was
I didn't want to. I'm not sure.
King
if it was
Ranch.
Here in Texas.
Was it King Ranch where somebody killed somebody and they put him? I thought that was just a folks.
I thought it was urban legend.
urban legend. Yeah, I don't know substantiation about that. That's like the Headless Horseman of Hoxie Bridge
If
out in
anybody
Taylor.
can,
I've never heard of anything
substantiate that. Give us a shout.
like that. Yeah, well, if anybody can give us any stories about scarecrows, give me a shout because I've never heard of any other than that one. So, anyways, folks, you give me your opinions on the chat room, guys. You've been. I haven't been reading it. I've been looking up much. I just. Gregory Ellison. Greg, be careful. You're driving and you're looking. You're typing. So
Yeah.
You wreck. I'd feel really horrible. I don't want anybody wrecking.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon.
Drive safe. Happy Halloween.
It says children are innocent and their fear most likely is preferred by those demonic entities. Absolutely. They go after what is weaker.
Kind of like a soft target.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
for demons and.
Well, that's what you said when you were carrying the bat when you brought in. Chief, honestly, folks, Chief just came from trick-or-treating with his kids. And he comes walking in with this black hockey mask and these weird lights all over it, which
just looks like the
and a
Purge.
metal baseball bat, dude.
It's the purge mask, basically.
So what were you supposed to be?
We were purging it up.
Yeah.
Me and my kids.
Is that what that is?
Yeah,
My
it's the
children,
purge mask.
my-
It's the one with the
Oh, okay.
stitched up mouth. Yeah.
Children and I were purging it up, man. People were like,
I like the
Scooby Doo,
mask.
unicorn.
So did you get
hey,
rid of like
purge.
useless people that were just out there that didn't need to be existing?
No, everybody had good candy.
Well, there you go.
Well, one lady had brochures.
Well, there's always that one house.
One lady was Jehovah's Witness. She was giving out.
Brochures.
I'm not worried about defending Jehovah's Witnesses because there are none that are going to be listening to this show on Halloween.
The one kid that's over there like, hey,
Nobody
they're giving me
Jehovah's
books.
Witness
Did you find that one
is
house
gonna
that
listen
gives
to
the
this
good
show.
candy?
The whole bar.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
Dude, when I was a kid, dude.
I'm going to tell you something. When I was a kid, okay, hold that thought, because I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind.
Let me take a note. Holding.
Folks, I'm going to tell you something. This is a true story. When I was a kid, me and my friend Ronnie, we went trick-or-treating around our town where we lived when we were kids. And there was a guy who got in big trouble because he literally gave cigarettes. That is a true story. Now, I saw somebody put that on Facebook. I think it was Michael. I think it was Michael Moran. And I was laughing. He's like, please just take one. And it was like a bowl of cigarettes. No, this guy literally threw cigarettes into our bag, and we didn't know who it was exactly, but he got in trouble. Like I remember some people went and found out who it was.
Penitentiary Halloween.
Well, he was some old kind of hermetish type guy. I don't know. Is that a word? Hermetish? I don't even know what that is.
That's how he started smoking.
He was like a hermit, dude. He was like a hermit, but he was like a widower, and he was just a cantankerous old man, and he lived down the street from my friend, and he dropped cigarettes.
Disheveled.
I believe that, if I remember correctly, folks, they were Pall Malls. I'm not making that up.
Reds.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know that anybody smoked them, because my mom was like going through my bag, and his mom and everybody, and they're like, "What is this?" Un frajo.
Cigarros.
Dos míos.
Cigarros mío.
Un frajo.
So check it out. We went trick-or-treating, and I just remember.
This is when you were trick-or-treating?
This is when I was a child.
Like
this is when I was a
couple
kid.
years ago.
Not 20 minutes ago, but when I was right. That's what So I hold out the bag, trick-or-treat, all that goodness, and then the bag just goes.
And a tarantula was in it.
No.
It just ripped?
It wasn't ripped. Like if it was like a heavy candy, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Big old candy. I looked down in my bag, bro. A tamale.
Oh, are you kidding me?
And then it wasn't even wrapped, bro. I'm like, grease all over my candy. Get it out.
Mentiroso. Yeah, that's not what happened.
Hey, one time this dude said, I ain't got no candy, but I got some lunch meat.
Yeah, you hear stuff like
you
that
hear
when you're a
you get
kid.
some
Oh, yeah, you
Weird
catch some
stuff.
people off guard sometimes. I understand.
Dude, a few years ago, a buddy of mine's kids, they went out, and this guy was like giving them headphones and
My
really,
kids will get
prizes.
you, and it's not even Halloween.
They were giving them like prizes, dude, for real, like those like little headphones,
Door prizes
Yeah,
and
like
shit?
little prizes, like putting them in the bags, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm
They had
pushing door prizes.
headphones
We had-
and I never got anything like that.
I remember just one rich house that served the full candy bars, and I would have 2 or 3 different costumes, and I would just switch
Go
them
back.
out. Yeah, because it's like, why would I go to other houses? This one gives the good candy. Why would I waste my time walking around?
Yeah,
everywhere?
but didn't you say I'm gonna rat this guy out? Didn't you say you did that when you were like a teenager, dude?
Yes, I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh!
why would I walk around?
Yes, he did. This guy's not.
You better
lying.
not be abusing the
Okay,
blue
folks,
bucket.
let me tell you about this. Tony is a little turd, okay? And his friend, Stupid John, Anthony, remember? We call him Stupid John.
Jay Ward, I drive a minivan.
We called him Stupid John. He was so stupid.
He's married, so
You can be
And he's
married.
probably
You
gonna
can
have
be
kids.
married and be stupid, okay? He's married and stupid, okay? Stupid John and you, I could see y'all doing that because Stupid John would do something like that.
A couple 3 houses down from ours
Gave
gave us a handful of
Gosh.
pennies.
Oh, dude, to do
Shout
that.
out to
So, anyways,
DNKY
folks,
Bird.
so let's get back on track here. They're here to hear
I
stories,
saw
not to hear about Tony
someone saying
scamming
something
for
about
candy.
hellhounds. I figured, that's perfect.
Hellhounds is perfect because
Yeah.
we have some stuff about hellhounds. Okay. We had a guy that used to work for us that talked like this. Remember, Anthony? Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the little leprechaun.
I think he's probably a serial killer now over there in Missouri. Where he's, okay, Mr. Wolf. I'd always be like, my name is not Mr. Wolf. My name is Turner or Wolf. You can, and he would call me Mr. Wolf.
Well, let's see here. How are ya?
How are you? He was so fake.
Yeah, he was one of those people who was like a clown without makeup, because he was always overly happy no matter what was going on or no matter who was around him or who he was talking to the point where you could tell it was fake, and it was something that he used to get gullible people's guard down.
Yeah, I remember one time he comes to me and he's like, "My grandmother just died. How are you?" And I'm like, "What?
Like an energy
What?
vampire?
Like your
kinda?
grandma just died, and you're just like,
Yeah,
like,
from that.
Sounds like an energy vampire. to me.
totally, dude." So, anyways, let's get back on track. Yeah, people are some weird people. Well, speaking of which, actually, he worked at a haunted place. Remember, what was it? I guess we probably shouldn't say the name of the hotel, but You worked there, Anthony, believe it or not.
Candy misers.
I think it was Tony didn't work there.
This was before.
No,
I
this
That was
came.
before his time.
Yeah.
Did you have something happen to you at that hotel?
Not me personally, but I know that pretty much every other guard who worked there had reported seeing this little girl who she would just be on the stairs like whenever they made their rounds, and she was crying, and they said that they looked away for a second and they looked back and she was just gone, like she would just disappear.
Now, folks, I'm going to tell you something that go ahead, Chief. Go ahead, interrupt me.
Driscoll? Was this
No,
Driscoll?
no.
We can't
And
say.
even if it was, we can't tell you. We
Yeah.
can't say what it is because they were a client of ours, and sometimes we still do things from every now and then. I'll say this: there's a cemetery behind it.
I don't
It's
know.
the one with the rooms that people rent to stay in. Is that one with the beds?
It
And the
has
building?
beds
Oh,
and people.
continental breakfast.
Now
And
we
the
had
door?
a guard. Now let me tell you something. We had a guard that worked there, and they were filming a movie, and there was some celebrities who stayed at that hotel. Are we allowed to say their names? Can we say them?
It shouldn't be a big deal.
Lance Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stayed there, and then there were a couple other females that I didn't even know who they were. And I was walking around, and the guy looked vaguely familiar to me, but he had complained about, one of the guards' activity because one of our guards. Listen to this. One of our guards ate leftover food off of the tray that these people had set out, and they heard him out there picking up the tray, and
You
they're
know,
like,
when you're,
"Wow."
like, you're done with your food, you put it
Yeah,
outside.
they put it in the room
Okay.
service, and our guard was going around and he was eating the food. And you're just going like, what is wrong with this guy? And I'm not kidding. That really happened. Anthony, I'm not lying.
Oh no. Yeah,
Wow.
That really happened. And Anthony was his
Specifically, I
boss. So
remember
Anthony
that.
was like, if you ever seen the regular show.
Yes.
Now, folks, if you've ever seen the regular show, Anthony, he's the boss of our company. Like, I'm his boss, of course, but he's the one that they all answer to. He is very much like the gumball machine guy.
Yeah, and you would be pops.
And I am
You're like,
very
you own
much-
it, but like he's the one who keeps it.
I'm the friendly one. I'm
Yeah.
like, we can all be turds.
And I'm very much just a peon here. That's
And so Anthony is the one that gets mad and is like, you guys, and would, so he was always dealing with this one
the decks.
particular guard. But this one particular guard, he had a very interesting story to tell you. Now I'm gonna tell you, it was a creepy story. And I would have thought it was just complete nonsense. Now hear me out. He said that he saw an orb like bouncing around in the cemetery behind the hotel. And that when he was in the stairwell, he heard footsteps walking up behind him the same night he saw this orb. And, you're sitting there going like, is this guy for real, whatever. He told me that something, as he began to move faster, it began to move faster. And it was like it was chasing him. And after that, he never wanted to work there again. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I, myself, and Anthony both, we kind of poo-pooed these stories because I had worked there a few times. I didn't see anything. One night, I was in that hotel room. I was aggravated. Maybe my anger was part of it. I was aggravated, and I had to be up in that hotel walking around because some guard didn't show up for his shift, and after I had just worked my shift at another site, because it's my company, I had to show up over there, and I had to go and cover his shift. So I was mad, and then the guy that was going to come in and relieve me couldn't get there till 2, and so I had to work there from 10 to 2. Now, it's not too bad.
Shout out to Miss Susie Ford.
Susie's awesome. So here's the thing. Something happened to me in that stairwell. Now, and this isn't like some earth-shattering story or anything like that, but something did happen to me which made me stop doubting the other guards' stories. Just because nothing had ever happened to me, I'm pretty sensitive to stuff, and if it's around, I can feel it.
We were at the same place. We had a stairwell incident.
Where?
The club had a stairwell incident. Remember the
Yeah.
the wailing?
But we're not talking about that right now, so
I was just
shut your mouth.
Yeah, let him finish. Go ahead. You were saying?
Which one are you talking to, me or him? Because I'm trying to finish.
You.
Well, I didn't mean to interject.
Can I finish?
Hello, can I finish?
I'm finished.
We have apologized for Brian Adams on more than one occasion.
So what ended up happening? I was in the stairwell and I heard this what sounded like someone go, kind of like sigh. And I thought, dude, that it sounded like a little kid sigh in the stairwell. So I went down the stairs to see if I could find what this noise was, because I was at the top floor. And I went all the way down the stairwell, and then I heard footsteps, like you could tell when it's like a child, like a small, like
pitter
yes,
patter,
like it was like a little kid,
like Chucky
Yeah,
running.
slider. You know.
And then as I started to run down the stairs faster to try to get to where the noise was, I heard kind of like something laugh, and then open the door. It sounded like a little kid being rambunctious, and so I got to that floor, which was just right below me. I got to that floor. And I came out onto that floor, and there was only one way to go from that stairwell, and it was just straight north. And I looked down the hallway. I don't see anything. There was absolutely nothing. And that was the only thing that happened to me there ever.
I think little kid apparitions, like kind of stuff like that. That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've dealt with it. It's not as creepy as you think.
Now that's another thing too. I was going to talk.
My kids are alive and they're creepy.
Well, I mean, cause
depends on what they're doing. I mean, it's like, you know,
it's kind of sad, to be honest, because I've only dealt with it a couple times, and you feel more of like a lost kind of like they don't know what's going on. This is very like you don't like some ghosts
very lost soul kind
feel
of
like nervous, or you can feel like you can understand like, oh, like this is, or you get nervous about some. When I saw it, it was more like it was just kind of like sad, to be honest.
I got you.
I mean, I don't know exactly how to describe it besides like it just didn't know what it was doing
just
there.
disembodied and stuck.
Galagaditas TV. Tell that time you got a pizza slice slapped off your hand.
You can revert back to whatever episode that is. There's a whole story on that.
Yeah, is he talking about when I broke that guy's?
Yeah, that's the only thing I
Tell
can
me
think
that
of is
time
when you
whenever
dropped the
you
pizza.
I beat that guy up pretty
pizza.
bad. Chief knows about that story. Willie was there. I think
That's one of the folklore
We're not going
episodes.
to talk. We're not going to talk. Yeah, I think it was a folklore episode. I'm not going to talk about beating people up tonight, but anyways, we had. I was just wondering who that was, because was that somebody that we knew, or
Galladitas, yeah, he comes on. He comments quite frequently. I think he wants to
okay.
come on. He's got some encounters he's talking about.
Oh, okay.
Gil, I think.
So anyways, Tony, I wanted you to talk about tonight. Just you don't have to tell your and shut Banjo up. His dog is over here. Something happened to you when you were living in your house.
Yeah. This is exactly the story I was talking about. I remember young age, waking up and having to go to the bathroom. Stuff that people do all the time. But I remember the way that my house was made, that the bathroom, I was right next to the front door, and the bathroom was like all the way near the kitchen, which was across the living room. So I would wake up and just do that walk, go to the bathroom and walk back. Well, on one particular night, as I was doing it, I remember rubbing my eyes, and I'm walking past, and I get out of the bathroom, and I just see what looks like a little girl sitting on the couch. And it's not my little sister, it just seemed weird because she was wearing like really Victorian, like it looked like older clothing.
Outdated.
It was a dress, and it looked like a big poofy dress where like it was like, oh, what's going on? So I rub my eyes again, and I'm looking, and she just disappears. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's real late at night, I'm tired. So I go back to my room, and I don't think nothing of it. Well, a month passes, same thing happens. As I'm walking to the bathroom, I see her again, and it's just same time around. I don't really know exactly what time, but it was just middle of the night, just random time when I woke up to needed to go, and it just kept seeing her over and over again, and it got to the point to where it wasn't weird anymore. That's why I can say like it's not.
It became the norm.
Yeah, like you don't feel like fear,
Right.
You don't feel like it's this thing has malicious intent. It just feels more like it's just there. And you don't know why it's there, and you can kind of feel like it doesn't know why it's there.
It didn't feel malevolent. It didn't feel bad.
No,
energy.
And it got to the point where like I would just walk past it, and I'm not saying like, oh, I saw it all the time. I saw it maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe even 5, just real quick, and it never like stayed in my sight to where I could give you like a real great description. I just remember a little blonde girl in a real like nice poofy dress,
Equestrian style.
yeah, just sitting there with her head down, and that's probably my first encounter with anything paranormal, which is weird because, my mom dealing with everything she did. And
That's great. Did you ever find a backstory or anything?
I was young, maybe like I would say 12 or 13, so it never
struck you to find out or
I didn't know,
investigate anything?
I remember talking to my sister about it, and she was just saying like, "Yo, it's just you're tired,"
Was it maybe the home, the kind of deal? Maybe
I would think so.
something
Maybe it's
happened
just like
there
the
in past?
land. Maybe it's just a spirit that was just just lingering on, and she was just there, and it was never like she was there to like it was never like she stumbled upon me. It was more like I was just stumbling upon her.
Right. I got you.
Like she was just doing what she normally did, which was just sit there.
And there was never any communication.
Mm-mm.
Never.
Barely, I would say 1-2 seconds at the most. I got to see her at a time.
Oh, never enough time.
Never enough time to really like see her to see like what she's doing or what. Like I never saw her face because her head was always down like towards the ground or towards her like lap, and I just remember her hair color because like it kind of stood out from the rest of her dress.
Okay.
And it was just a real like light blonde. And she was just sitting there, and that's probably the first time I saw something. Now, I wanted to talk about we never got to deal with the hellhound stories. We kind of skipped over it.
Oh yeah, we got some listeners talking about the hellhound.
Yeah,
right
someone
now.
said they wanted to see it, and we just kind of skipped over it.
You can also revert back to some of the first folklore stuff. We talked about the Cadejo. Kind of similar to the hellhound. Allegedly, they are hellhounds, so may just be dealing with the Spanish or the Mexican version.
Yeah, there was a guy that recently gave me some really interesting stories, and I wanted to talk about these for Halloween. There's so many stories I got out there that I could tell you for Halloween, and I got some really good ghost stories. Gosh, let's go to the hellhound. I got one, and we're jumping around. We're kind of doing a paranormal potluck type Halloween thing here, guys. I got one. Now this one was it gives me the chills. It was a very unnerving story. My wife heard this story and it freaked her out. There is a guy that I talked to who was from Detroit. Or he lived in Detroit. He was homeless there. Now, Detroit is already a rough city. It was a very bad place in some areas. It's like the police don't even go. It's like it's another world. It's like third world, Maybe not even third world. That may be putting it. That may be just. I don't know. It may be like beyond that.
Maybe fourth world.
Yeah, there's not even like stores or anything around. It's just like there's nothing. And I don't want to get into
dilapidation.
Dilapidation. Yeah, he told me several stories, but one in particular was of a hellhound when he was homeless. Now he had a drug problem, which got him in his situation that he was in, and then he tried to get clean. He lost his family, he lost his job, lost his wife, lost his kids. Ended up homeless in Detroit, wandering around and going from spot to spot. There were legends, there were stories of a creature. Oh, excuse me, folks. That would come out, and it would chase people, and it would attack people because there were packs of dogs that would roam in these inner city urban areas of Detroit, according to what he told me. I've been through Detroit. I have not stayed the night in Detroit. I have not lingered there. I have not spent a lot of time in Detroit. Okay, had no reason to. I was but this guy lived there. Okay, and so he had something that happened to him one night. He got chased into a building by what he said were 3 black dogs. One of which he said looked like it was extremely large, and that it had what he said smoke coming off of its back. Now, when I asked him, smoke is in like if you're barbecuing and you see like smoke, he's like, not like food sizzling smoke. Like it was like vapors, like black vapors.
Like a haze, like a fog.
Coming off the top of it.
Vapors.
It was amorphous. Like it wasn't.
Like a black fume.
Now, these are my words. I don't want to put my words into your to his story, sir. into your story, sir, because I don't want you might be listening, and I don't want you to think that I'm adding or taking away from it. But the story that was told to me, okay, if I'm telling it correctly, the way he related to me was that it was like vaporous, and that when it would run and move, you could see like black vapor coming off its back. It had a very weird looking head.
It's like a pitch black smoke.
The way that he described the head was not like a pit bull. It was more of like if you look at a terrier, like a terrier dog. Okay, he tried to send me like a picture of what the closest thing he'd come to, and it was almost like an Irish wolfhound. That's the closest thing that I could come to, because he sent me a picture. Then I sent him one back of that. He said that looked more like it, but it was large, abnormally large, and he said that there were two what looked like regular flesh and blood dogs that were like mutt. They just looked like mutts, but they looked kind of like Rottweilers, but they looked like they were mutts. They were just kind of following around him on either side. That looked like regular dogs.
Tag-alongs.
Yes, but he was like, there was like this little pack. And now what he found out was that this thing actually would attack people, and it would literally, he saw a person being mauled to death by this thing. Now he got away from it. He got up to a higher ground, and it just ran around below him, and he closed himself into a room in an abandoned warehouse. This thing was running around below him, barking, and it did not get up to where he was at. So that doesn't lend credence to the idea that it would be some sort of demonic entity, because a demonic entity could probably float through, whatever.
Right.
But he said that it was like it was looking for him. But he said that this thing had, at different times, he had seen this dog, and it almost looked like spikes, like small spikes, kind of ridges on its back.
Okay.
Now, he did claim that he witnessed this thing, the exact same entity, whatever it was, attack a homeless guy in a warehouse that he was staying in, and that it mauled him to death. And he saw it rip him apart, and he was bleeding, and him and 3 other people were trying to beat it, trying to hit it to get it off of him. And it was flesh and blood. They were hitting it. And they were able to get it to get off of the guy and leave. But they said that when it left, when it got off of him, and listen to this, okay, it leapt into the shadows and was gone.
Wow.
No.
When they looked at their friend, who, he said the guy wasn't like his great friend or anything. It was just an acquaintance of his. The guy had no marks on him, but he was stone cold dead.
So the guy was unscathed.
The guy was physically unscathed, okay? When they took him, they had to take him to another area to where they could get an ambulance to even come. When they finally got that done, they said that the cause of death was a heart attack.
Wow.
That's a good question.
So the thing literally scared him to death.
So what he claimed was there's a legend that goes on that amongst the homeless population there this was back, I think in the 90s, he said. But he said that this thing was killing people, and it was that they would die of a heart attack.
Wow.
But that people that witnessed it, because he said that other people that he knew had witnessed this thing attacking other people, and that it caused cardiac arrest. But when you witnessed it, there was blood. It was tearing them apart, like it was killing them.
Makes me kind of wonder if this thing just visually manifests. Maybe when something like that, or maybe something.
Is
in
it
the
harvesting
water?
the soul?
Is it something?
That's what I was
local,
thinking.
something
But
regional.
I saw a question saying, like, was there a smell?
Was there an odor?
Or, like, what color were the eyes?
Actually, you know. Okay, Tony's cheating. He already knows. Just kidding.
Well, I saw it, so.
Yeah, okay, so anyways. So, folks, there was. He said that when it would appear, there was a sulfury smell mixed with
Like a burnt
what smelled
smell.
like poop. That's not his words, my words, because I'm
Right.
trying to clean it up, because this is,
So you got feces and sulfur.
sulfur, yeah. And he said that it was a black dog.
I know your Rhodesian Ridgebacks have an actual mohawk on it, but I don't. I've never known a dog that
doesn't sound like that.
Spikes. I don't know a dog that has spikes coming out of it.
Yeah. I also don't know.
I'd probably run if I saw a dog with spikes coming out of it.
Well, to be fair, I don't really know a dog that attacks you, and then when you leave, like the person is just
You're
fine.
unscathed.
Yeah, like it sounds like
This person just put parts of Detroit are best described as post-apocalyptic, in my opinion. I totally agree with that. My half brother lived in Michigan for years. My barber from Michigan, good guy,
Good friend of ours.
I mean, D's in the chat. Right?
So if you talk to those guys, they'll tell you they confirmed when I asked those guys a little bit about this stories of is that what it's like there, and they're like yeah. So yeah, it's very the guy gave me some other stories too, but we're dealing with this demonic entity known as the hellhound.
The hellhound, the cadejo.
The cadejo, as we call it here, is the cadejo.
They've also called the black dog.
The black dog, old shuck,
dog.
whatever you want to call it.
Sparky.
Sparky. So, I mean, folks, you at home listening, tell me what you think of this. I mean, do you think that this is a demonic entity, or is it something that we're... Because I don't know what that is. I mean,
it sounds like Grim Reaper's pet, to be honest. Like, it's just going out there reaping souls.
Shout out to Diablo. He's on the thread right now.
Yeah.
they saw it killing his soul. That's did it kill his soul, or did it just kill him and the
Harvest.
soul? Harvest the soul. Ooh, that's a terrifying thought, dude.
Yeah.
Especially
Because
being-
you would think, I asked him this question too. I asked him, I said, these people that it was attacking, were they on drugs? Were they alcoholics? And he said pretty much, yeah. Most of the people that he knows of that had died were alcoholics. They were drug users. Okay. I mean, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Chief, you and I both know plenty of people who've done drugs and drank, and we've never seen a black dog maul them and rip their soul out. So,
I mean, there's also, it could be something regional, some kind of mold, some kind of contaminant, something that's making people, maybe figment or hallucinate.
It could just
perhaps, all kinds of stuff.
It could be that these people are living past their time, and this is how this was sent to deal with them, You can't.
Oh, wow. That's okay, folks. That's comforting. So when we live past our time, we get a devil dog that's going to come and maul us to death in front of our friends, and then we're going to have a heart attack.
It's like
we
a
don't need
transient
no,
golden year home.
Well, that's
Final Destination
Boy,
stuff.
that is very nice of you, Tony. That's
just...
Okay, this person, Beekeeper, says, Irish hound is a legend from Ireland where there was a north part of Mexico where a girl's sister called her while the hellhounds are ripping apart on her boyfriend to death. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow.
That was Beekeeper.
That's crazy. There are no neighborhoods in Chicago where police only show up after a crime. They always travel in pairs and seldom get out of their vehicles. Yeah, well, here's the thing. There's another story I got. Okay, another hellhound story. We're going to go to that. Unless you guys want to just, go to a different subject. I mean, I got stories, man. I got these stories, man. Let me tell you.
I got these cheeseburgers.
They taste like stories, man. I don't know. I mean,
Black Panthers.
it's whatever you guys want to do.
About,
Shadow
Jaguars.
people. There you go.
Jaguars come up from
DCG
Mexico.
just said shadow people. That will lead me into the next story that the guy had.
Well,
Okay.
Well, perfect then.
So we'll leave the hellhounds. There is another story I had of a black dog that I wanted to get into possibly, but we got a lot to cover, so we'll move along, and I'll just put that in another episode.
We'll
man.
just leave the hounds here.
Mm-hmm.
We will leave the hounds here.
Well,
Even though it was a good story, guys, you're going to miss out on it. Oh, well. Sorry. Sorry, man. Don't know what to tell you.
blame Chief.
Sheep squatch.
Dick Richards, Dick, I know what you're saying. No hellhounds are good. Believe me, I know. That's why they're called hellhounds. I don't think anything from hell is good. I mean, if that's where it's coming from.
Philip Goodwin. That's kind of what I was saying.
No,
Mass
hellhounds
hallucinate.
are good. Like stay with the topic.
Mass hallucination.
He
Could
said
be
he wants to know the hellhound story.
Oh,
That's what he
is
said.
that what it is, Dick? Give me a sign, Dick.
It's all on you, Dick.
This is where punctuation is important.
You need to punctuate, Dick. Come on now.
Use your vowels, Richard.
That's not what I meant. Yes. Dick Richards is a good guy, man. I talk to him all the time. He's actually a very good guy.
Shout out
man.
to
He's
Dick
a Christian
Richards.
guy, and he sends me things, and you probably don't think I read, but I do, man. So here's the thing. Let's get back. Let's go into the guy that we were talking from Detroit. Now he's got a couple other things that he had said. How are we doing on time?
We're going all night.
We've been going for.
Well, I have places to be because I
We
have
can
a
go
life.
however long.
Yeah. Oh, so you got places. Tony said he's got places to be.
Well, so I mean,
You got a
this is,
date?
I got about
Well,
5,
you
10
can
more
go.
minutes.
Actually, you know what? He did pick up on a girl at Snowy Village earlier. I was very
yeah.
surprised. She was so friendly and nice, and then when we were walking out, Nellie was like, "Should we let her talk to him?" I'm
Was
like,
he cool? Was he
we
cool?
can't stop.
I gotta.
Was he nice?
He's talking to Tony. I don't know, Tony.
I don't know.
Kathleen Martin. I live about 40 miles from Detroit. Ooh.
Oh man, don't be mean to me, Hunter.
Just didn't leave, Tony.
Whoa. Hunter Evans said, well,
Hunter's like, you know what? Get out of here. We don't need you. We don't need no stinking Tonys.
we don't need no badges.
I'm the captain now. Without
I'm
me,
the captain now.
everything dies.
So here's what we got. We got hellhounds. We talked about a scarecrow. In case you guys are coming in late from your partying and your wickedness, you're out there partying. Let me tell you something. We've talked about a scarecrow. We've talked about hellhounds. What else have we talked about?
Getting hopped up on candy.
The bats, the flying bat creatures. That I'm
Kamazats.
giving you pieces of my future stories, folks. When there's no shows coming out next month, you'll know why. Okay. I hope you're happy.
It's a sneak
I hope
peek.
you're happy, folks. You sucked all the life and stories right out of me.
Life right out of him.
Okay, so the hellhound thing, the guy that told me that story, we're going to get back on track. That guy, he told me some other stuff that was pretty interesting. He said that when he was trying to get clean, that he was staying in a what used to be it wasn't a warehouse. He called it a they used to manufacture stuff in it. It was like a building. It was an industry building. I can't remember what he called it.
Factory.
A factory, but it was like he named it something, an industrial something. I don't know, something. It was a factory, I guess. We'll just call it a factory. But he stayed in an abandoned factory, and I guess they used to manufacture stuff there or whatever. Detroit is called Steel City for a reason. Or is that Pittsburgh? My bad. Did I just say that?
No,
it's
it's
Pittsburgh. My gosh.
Detroit's a motor city.
Detroit's
Motor-
Motor City. There you
Yeah.
go. Somebody's going to jump right on that and be like, oh my gosh, you're so stupid. 49ers going 8-0.
Foundry.
Don't remind me. A foundry. That sounds about right. That sounds okay. So, anyways, this is what was going on. He was living in one side of that foundry with a group of other people who were delinquents, and they were not good people. And he was trying to get clean. He had an addiction. He was addicted to something that was very hard to get off of, and he had to get away from these people to try to stay clean. And he was like, okay, guys, you guys are great, but I'm going to go stay in another part of this place because I don't want to do what you're doing, which was doing drugs and drinking. So they warned him. They told him, don't go to the northwest side of this building because it's haunted. And he's like, okay, yeah, it's haunted. Now, this was before he had the dog, the
Yeah, I was gonna
hellhound
say,
thing.
like, if you saw that.
No. This was before that.
Yeah.
This is when he first was getting clean. Now, the reason we jumped out of order is because you little turds wanted to hear about the hellhound, so I gave it to you. Now, shut your mouth and listen to the story. Okay, folks. Anyways, so this guy, he goes and he stays at that northwest side of this property where he was told not to go. So he goes there and he goes to sleep. These older guys that he was with, he said that they were a little older than him. They had been around that area for a long time, and they warned him that area was a bad area and that people die. Okay? He didn't believe it. He took it as like, whatever, dude. I don't believe this mess, whatever. So he goes and he stays, goes to sleep, makes himself at home. He wakes up in the middle of the night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, what he said. Now, there again, you hear that 3 o'clock in the morning thing. That's another thread we hear about a lot. He wakes up and he says that something was breathing in the corner of the little office thing that he had found, like an office that was upstairs. Something was breathing. And he said that it sounded like if you ever got a, I'm not trying to be funny, but if you ever got a prank phone call and they were just going like that, but he said it was a lot more raspy. Now he said it reminded him of the bad guy from Inspector Gadget in the cartoon. Do you remember how it would talk? Now I had to go back and try to
Gadget.
yeah, next time. I can't do the voice, but anyways, he said that it sounded like that because it was like something was speaking when he woke up. He heard the heavy breathing, the rasping.
Raspy and guttural.
Guttural. Something was breathing and speaking, and he said that it was in another language that he could not understand. He said it wasn't like something that you would hear every day. Like he knew it wasn't Arabic. He knew it wasn't any kind of Asian dialect, and it wasn't Hispanic or anything like that. He didn't know what it was. But he said that this thing was doing that, making noise and breathing in the corner of this place where he was at. And he saw what looked like to him, he thought it was a black man standing in the corner. By black man, I mean like an African American. That's what he thought it was. But he said that it had hair that kind of looked like that, and he thought that that's what it was. But then when it came out of the shadow, he realized that it wasn't a person standing in the shadow. It was a shadow that came out of the shadows, like if it was a part of it. But it was blacker than the black around it, and that it had what looked like these weird-looking plugs coming off of the head. Okay? Now, I asked him what that was. What do you mean by that? Now, he tells me that the plugs, they looked like if somebody had braids in their hair and they were sticking out all over the place.
Oh, so they were where the hair would be at?
Like spikes.
Yeah,
Okay? Yes, and so that was very weird, very odd, and I asked him what does that mean? I didn't say spikes. I said, was it spikes? He said that was the closest he could come to calling it was spikes. Okay? Now I asked this guy, what did it do to make you so afraid? Because when he was talking about it, he just kind of stopped and didn't really want to talk about it. Then he goes on to the next whatever, and I'm going like, wait a minute here, go back, let's finish telling me what it did. It took him a little while to get himself together, and we had to have another conversation for him to actually talk about it because I believe that this thing traumatized him. What happened to him that night was that this thing leapt on top of him and began to choke him, and it began to hold him down, and he said that it was like something was squeezing his heart, and it felt like he was either going to have a heart attack or that it was going to choke him to death because he was beginning to lose his breath. And then he thought, maybe I am just having a heart attack and I'm hallucinating this. But he said that it was very real, very powerful, and he knew that it wasn't a hallucination. And when it leapt on top of him, he could look into this thing. Now, this thing did have red eyes. It had red glowing eyes, and it had a mouth. And when it opened its mouth, he could see through the mouth. He could see like what looked like, and this part's going to sound really weird. He said it looked like a swirling gray cloud inside of its mouth, where the mouth should have been.
Did it stand on its feet or did it float?
It was standing.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
and then it leapt on top of him, and it began to hold him down and choke him. And he said that he was fighting for his life, and he couldn't, make any noise. And even if he could, no one could hear him. The other people were like, 200 yards away from him. This was a big place. So there was nothing he could do. He was there by himself, choking, trying to get this thing off, getting choked. Now, he said that he wasn't, at that time, a Christian. He wasn't a person that was a follower of Christ or anything like that. But at that moment in time, he was dying. He did what anybody would do, and he tried anything and everything.
Right.
And for just a second, he began to focus, and he said that he began to focus on Christ. And he said that he called out, in the name of Christ. And this is what he told me, okay, that it stopped and that it got up off of him, It stood at the front of his blanket that he was laying on, and that it just dissipated. Now, I don't know what that is or what that was, but him not being a Christian, a lot of Christians will say, well, because he wasn't a Christian, there's no way that could have worked. But he gave his life back to Christ. He eventually moved out of that area. That was the last incident that ever happened to him there. Now, there was another incident that he had told me about, but it wasn't nearly on the level of those two incidences that happened to him. Now, he did tell me quite a few stories of things that had happened to people, you know. Now, here's another story that he told me that was a secondhand story. He said that he was hanging out with some of his homeless friends or whatever, and they were regaling him with bum tales, and one of them told him
Bum tails.
I got a guy that's a friend of mine who comes by every once in a while by the property, and he's homeless, but he says, you want to hear some bum tales, and he'll tell us stories of fights and things
That's
like
it.
that.
Next episode,
And we'll
you
just
have me
laugh,
on.
you know, because we're not laughing at him, but he calls it bum tales. That's where I got that from.
I'm starting a whole new investigation, bro. Bum lore.
Lord.
Bum lore with Chief.
So this guy tells me that they were standing around a fire. There was an old guy that had been burned really bad, okay? And that this guy was had been burned on one part of his body. When he asked the guy how he had been burned, he said that they were standing around a fire, trying to keep warm in the middle of the winter in Detroit, and that this one guy had a curse or spell put upon him by a dude that practiced black magic that was one of the people that lived in that area, because that guy that ended up getting burned, he had stolen something from that guy. Now, when you're homeless, you don't have a whole lot to begin with, so when somebody steals something from you, I'm pretty sure it's an affront.
Pretty sure it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Yeah. So this guy had stolen something from him, so that guy went to someone who practiced black magic, the way I understand it, and that guy did something to him. Now, they were standing around a fire, and he says that 3 guys told him this story, and they were just very adamant that this really happened, and that while they were trying to warm themselves up by the fire, this guy goes up to the fire, goes to put his hands over the fire to get, warmth or whatever.
Bursted into flames.
And he said that something spoke. And and he said it was clear as day. It was English. It says, "There you are." And the fire came out and grabbed on the guy's left arm and just began to crawl up like a line of fire. Went up this guy's arm, up into his neck, and began to come out of his mouth, and it burned his face and a big part of his body, and he was rolling around the ground in the snow. And or not him, but his friend and 2 others, they took blankets and whatever, and they doused him. They got it off of him. One of them ended up burning their hand, and the other one burned their foot, trying to help this guy. But it wasn't until he was almost dead. Now, he actually lived. The guy lived.
So the fire attacked him.
The fire attacked the guy. Now, this is a story that he got that was secondhand, but you're sitting there going like, what is that? Like, what would cause it? Well, I mean, because this guy had something, somebody put something on him, a patrica on him,
Put a little spell on him.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, a shopping cart, a 50-gallon barrel out there, that's a commodity, bro.
Yeah, and folks, not to make light of homeless people or anything like that. We have a very large homeless population here in Austin, and I know several people that are homeless.
A barrel can be the difference between being warm or freezing.
Yeah, and so this is what happened. This is what we were told, what I was told. And so that was the stories. Now, this particular individual had one other story that happened to him. Now, and it goes back to shadowy type entities or creatures. The first time that he had an incident with a shadowy type creature, him and 3 of his friends were sitting around in one of these warehouses, and they had a fire going. They were trying to keep warm, and they saw like the shadow that was being cast by them, like they were walking, talking. You could see the shadow coming from the fire of them,
Okay.
And he said that there was a shadow that was standing behind one of the individuals, and it was this guy's shadow. You could see their shadows,
Okay.
This person's shadow actually moved independently of itself and went in between them and went into the fire. And now he claims he saw this with his own eyes. He said that it was like, he went to that place, that happened, he left that place, and then tried to go to sleep in that other building, and that's when he got attacked. And then at that point he thought, man, you know what, maybe I should change my life. And this is what he told me.
This is a hotbed of paranormal
Stop messing around with the stuff. And he left the area. He just left. He got in touch with his sister who lived in another part of the state, got a bus ticket, and first he went to Chicago, then he ended up in Milwaukee. But he got out of there. So that was the stories that he gave me.
Probably saved his life.
Well, yeah. I mean, something was around. I mean, then the dog thing that chased him, and it ended up killing somebody else that he saw.
Cancel that trip to Detroit.
Yeah. So, folks, unless you're going to see like the Tigers, or you're going to see the Pistons, or the Red Wings, or who else is in Detroit? Well, you're not going to go see them, but but I'm just kidding, folks. There's a lot of Detroit Lion fans out there. Yeah, unless you're going into the city, I would be very careful. Detroit is a very. I didn't realize how much paranormal, spooky stuff would go on, and I just never thought of it much in that city. But, anyways, that's the stories I got for the Detroit area. That was a gentleman, and I'd saved those up. I got them a couple months ago, and I was like, you know what? I got some stories. I'm going to put those out for Halloween, and that's that. So,
okay. Speaking of which, there are 3 different stories that I kind of want to run by you. One was
no.
Okay. The other one,
no.
Well, the last one,
no.
Okay. Well, that's the show, guys. Thanks for listening. Please comment and subscribe.
It's time for Tony to go look at naked women, you heathen.
What?
Anyways,
I got these dollars.
Anyway, as I was saying, the drowned ghost.
Oh,
the security ghost.
Absolutely.
And
yes,
the hairy ghost.
We got to get into that.
So, which one of the 3 do you want to start with?
The drowned ghost,
the security ghost, and the hairy ghost.
Well,
ask Chief. Which one do you want to hear?
I want to hear the hairy ghost.
The hairy ghost?
Gosh. Yeah, I knew he would.
Yeah, that's why. Oh man, I'm fired.
The hairy ghost. Oh, now I think I know what you're referring to. We'll get to that one. Let's tell some ghost stories, folks. You like ghost stories, guys? In the comments, tell me if you want to hear some ghost stories.
Yeah.
Tony, you're fired.
It's by D, so I gotta listen.
Yeah, it's like.
I can't say no.
I think a couple people have asked the same question, saying, "What would you call a dog man instead of a dog man?"
I'd call it a wolf man, or we could call it a upright canid.
There's a hybrid. There's like a Wesley Snipes hybrid called the Day Wolf.
Oh my God.
But these are all the time wolves.
It's a bipedal dog.
I think
fangs.
a bipedal wolf or an upright canid.
Man
I think
wolf?
upright canid, man wolf, or
I like man wolf.
hombre lobo. There's a lot of things you can call it. I mean, as everybody knows, recently we had a few problems. I'm not going to get into it with a group, and they are very adamant that Dogman is all just flesh and blood. There's nothing else going on, and that's not correct. I don't believe that. I don't think that that's. I think that there is a Dogman that is flesh and blood that is like that all the time. I absolutely think that exists, but I think there's something else going on too. And to just shut down conversation that everything is just, absolutely flesh and blood, that's just crazy. I mean,
I have
closed-minded.
I have a notion that I like, that there is a Dogman cryptid out there, and that it's pure survival, and there's no demonic or spiritual deal going on, and it's just in hiding, trying to survive. But at the same token, you got people were talking encounters. These things are talking about vanishing and glowing red and floating and being on fire, and the eyes look like coals. Now, in my opinion, that's demonic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you ask me, I think that there is a flesh and blood cryptid out there that's the upright dog trying to stay alive. But at the same token, then there's shapeshifters and other kind of demonic spiritual stuff going on with the same species, possibly.
Says Josh, have you ever heard of a story of someone witnessing a dog man killing a person? I've heard of a story of someone. I think I told it on Vic's show.
We were in international waters when it happened.
I heard of a story of someone being thought to have been killed, and a tow truck driver showed up, and they saw blood, and the police came. Yeah, that's as close as I don't. There are stories that I've heard. People have told me of supposedly werewolves and dogmen, whatever, killing people, mauling people. I don't know. I mean, I'm about to record with Vic. In fact, I kind of screwed up. I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I got too caught up watching the Astros lose. So
shout out to Vic Cundiff.
Yeah. So I just ended up. Vic was like, he sent me a message saying I tried to call you and you didn't answer it. So I kind of screwed it up. And then we talked about maybe recording tonight when I was done with the show, but I figured the show might run a little late. So we are going to get that recorded, and I will be going back on DRE.
Yeah, so because I saw a couple comments saying Dogman, can you say something about Dogman? But I was like, oh well, you're about to go on.
Yeah, we're about to be on that show pretty soon,
so
folks. So I mean,
shout out to Ginger Nightmare. Keep on licking.
Ginger Nightmare.
Lick the like button.
Lick the like button. Lick it.
Lick on, everybody.
I lick that off
like
the cable. I lick it off the cable. When you lick your button, you lick it. It's good.
Susan thinks my psoriasis is sexy.
Lick it good. When the button comes
gotta
along,
do it.
you must lick it.
I gotta take a break. I gotta use.
What?
I said I gotta use the restroom.
Don't announce that. Just go.
Why are you announcing that you're going to the bathroom? This is why we don't do live shows. This is why we
gotta
can't have
make-
nice
I
things.
know that you guys
gotta
are
go
gonna
make
miss
pee-pees,
my
mijo?
company. I don't want to just
Just
leave.
go to the
Number
restroom.
one or
Be
number
quiet.
two?
What would you guys do if I'm just quiet? That just
Go to the
that
restroom, you
hurts.
disgusting savage.
Number one or number two?
Why is he telling us this?
It's a number three.
Wow, that's pretty. That is, folks, very unprofessional of Tony. He's announcing that he's going to the restroom. He's got his
Tony gotta
his
go
dog
pee-pee.
just jumped down off of the. This way, come on, this way. So, anyways, I tell you what,
Gunnar Evans, you're not a kid, Tony.
Tony got to pee pee. Oh gosh.
I'm a kid at heart, all right?
Well, yeah, we know you are. Get out of here, kid. He's going to the kitchen.
And
He's going to
mentally
the kitchen.
too.
Don't forget your
He's
booster
going to our
seat.
break room in there.
Don't forget your booster seat.
God, he goes to the break room to try to take a pee in the sink. Can you go use the bathroom and do what you got to do? Okay, so folks, anyways, we are interrupted by this man-child over here, Tony. Very unprofessional. When Sal goes to the restroom, he just does it in his and you don't even know it. He's going during the show.
That's
He doesn't stop to go.
That's
He
how
just goes.
hardcore
Well,
I got a diaper on right now.
Well, Sal is
I'm
decent enough to
hardcore.
have a bucket next to him.
He just
So he
does
doesn't
it.
have to get up
Yeah.
and take away from the show because he's dedicated.
Shout out to Depends for
He's an
supplying my
adult.
underwear for the show.
He pees and poops in a bucket.
It says
when
Brandon
we're recording like an
Blackfire
adult.
Chris on Venomous Fringe has never talked bad about Vic. Why would he? Why would he talk bad about Vic? It wasn't, as far as I know, it wasn't Chris that said anything bad about him. It was another guy. I'm not going to get into name calling, but that was the other guy that did it. I mean,
And we'll carry on.
yeah.
If we sit here and bicker about other
no, we're
shows
not
or
getting into
whatever,
that. I'm just
we're gonna become like
addressing.
them.
I'm addressing that I don't think Chris has ever done that. The problem I had was that he let it go.
let's
On his group. I mean, that's my problem, folks.
more encounters.
But bless him. Maybe he have a good show, and may everybody have a good show
have
and
a good
safe and happy
show.
Halloween. All right, everybody have a good Halloween.
Share stories.
Vic is a good guy.
That's what
He's
we
my
do.
friend. I don't disparage him. I don't want to disparage anybody.
Dude, Vic
And-
is suave, bro. It's like he could be like, would you like to upsize those Brussels sprouts? And I'd be like, give me another order, Vic. You're so smooth.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man.
You know what? Extra crispy, Vic.
So yeah. Anyways, yeah, I just was addressing you. No, there's nothing. No, you were just saying that he was on the Venomous Fringe. That's great, dude. I mean, I like Vic. Nobody's talking bad about him. Believe me, he pushed me to do this, and he was one of the people that was like telling me I would be good at it. And because I was telling him I have all kinds of stories that I've collected of the paranormal, and he was like, dude, you got a wide variety of stuff you've collected. Do something with it. And I was like, okay. And then I took forever to do it, but I did it, and now I'm here.
Shout out to Vic for helping us with the endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. So where were we? So we're talking about this
ghost stories,
the
hairy
ghost stories,
ghosts.
the hairy ghost. Okay,
Bring on the hair.
we. Let me back it up and let me tell you what happened to me. Now, Chief, I'm going to tell you something. This is crazy. All right, now if you're listening out there, Russell Clark, everybody. Russell Clark is a good friend of mine. He's my
And his name was Russell.
He's my nephew's uncle on the other side. We have the same nephew. Here's the thing. I was with him the other day when something really weird, and I guess you could call it paranormal, happened on our job site, because I believe that the place I'm working at now is haunted. Well, before I get into that, I'll tell you what has gone on with this the story that he was talking about, that Tony said, and I'm going to save the other ghosts for a different time or maybe later. So let me get into this one. Me and Scorpion used to work with a guy, had a really cool name. I'm not going to say his name, but he had a really cool, awesome last name. Wish I had that last name. And that guy told us a story years ago. It started with me and Scorpion working security in a haunted building. Now, folks, when I say haunted building, it was obviously haunted. It wasn't like my pen moved or, I heard a knock or no, dude. There was some stuff going on at that place. I had a job when I quit being a person of ill repute and began to change my life. Began to change my life and pulled away from people like Chief. I began to change my life. What I did was I went and I worked as a security guard at a parking garage, and people would come in there like Chief and A-Man and Loki, and y'all be like, "What are you doing dressed like this? It's not Halloween." And I would be like, "I am a security guard," and people would be like, "Wow, you're really playing this up. What are you going to do? Are you going to rob this place?" No, I am a security guard. So that was one of the first posts I took to get back on the right track of my life. So for about 2 years, I did nothing. I just kind of was spinning my wheels, man. And I worked at this place, and Scorpion and me both worked at the same company. And I worked at that company for years and years. I had worked at it off and on for years already, and was just using it to keep my guard card and all that stuff, because the rules were different back then. And so I was at this place, and Scorpion was working the building that this parking garage belonged to. He worked the upstairs of this building, and he had that post for a little while. He had that job. And so at night, when I would get off from the parking garage, he got off an hour after me, so it worked out. So we would go in at the same time, or actually he would go in an hour, I think, before me, or an hour after. I forgot. Our shifts overlapped. Anyway, I would wait for him to get off, and I would go upstairs, and I'd sit with him and talk to him. And we would just sit there and chill. And I only worked at that parking garage like 3 or 4 days a week, but he worked at the upstairs. Excuse me, I'm having to clear my throat. About 4 or 5 nights a week. So he told me the first night he worked there, when I had not been in there, he said, "There's something wrong with this place. It's weird. I'm hearing noises." Now, having worked in that parking garage and had to go up into that building just for little short periods of time, I knew that there was something wrong with that place, because every time I went up there to use the bathroom, I would hear something follow me. Okay. Now, when you got on the elevator, you would go up to the 9th floor, because that's where the parking garage office was. Okay. The parking garage was the bottom floor, and then there was like the first floor of the parking garage, and the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then the 9th floor was where you got off the elevator, but there was like the 7th floor. So you got off on the elevator on the 9th floor, and the 8th floor was down. There was like an atrium, and there was like this railing that went all the way around it. And you could kind of go up there and look down into the 8th floor. Now, everything below the 8th floor was the parking garage, okay? So I would have to go up into the elevator maybe once or twice a night.
I think I remember this
to use
post.
the bathroom. You probably do. Don't say the name
Can't
of
say
it.
the name. Yeah, that's right.
It's across the street from some nightclubs and stuff. So anyways, I go up to that, and I'd always like feel like something was following me. And the men's bathroom was just unkept. They never did any. There was never paper towels in there. They never had anything in there, soap. And what was even weirder was there was hardly any tenants. There were no tenants in this place. There was like a tax office, and then there was like the parking garage office people that they would use to count the money, and that was it. There was nothing else in there. And what was weird is I worked at the parking garage about 3 years before that, and it was the same way at that time. So when I came back, when I went on the road to changing my life and eventually got my own business and all that, it was the same way. There was still no tenants in that place. And so I was talking to one of the bosses from the parking garage, and he told me that they had a hard time keeping tenants, that it was something was wrong with that building and they just couldn't keep tenants. He said that it was clean, the management was friendly, there wasn't any problem, but they just had a hard time keeping tenants.
Definitely some Amityville stuff.
So something. Well, so I would use the bathroom, in the woman's bathroom, because there was never anybody up there ever, especially at night when I was there, and it was just me. And so I would go up there to use the bathroom. So I had told Scorpion, I was like, yeah, I know there's something wrong with this building because I've been up here many times, and I had heard someone in the woman's bathroom clear their throat, and it freaked me out. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's somebody in here when there's never anybody in there.
Wow.
And so I looked under the stalls, and I was like, ma'am, and I was like, kind of freaked out because I thought they were going, so I was going to explain to them, I'm sorry,
here.
I'm security, and I'm just checking, so I'm trying to make an excuse,
Disembodied.
So I'm looking, because I didn't hear anybody go into this into the bathroom. I didn't hear anybody go in there. So I'm going like, is there somebody in this bathroom, and I'm so you explain yourself too, because obviously I think they're clearing their throat because they know I'm in there,
Right.
They're trying to get your attention.
Yeah, so I'm like trying to explain myself. Yeah, well, there's nobody in there. So I thought that's odd, So I didn't use that bathroom unless I would go to the men's, and then I would go over to the women's to wash my hands and dry my hands and stuff because there was no cleaning products in there. And so once again, I was in the woman's bathroom and I heard someone clear their throat again. And I was like like that. And I'm like, whoa. And I turned around. I know there wasn't anybody in there. Okay.
Did it scare the crap out of you?
It did. It absolutely did. It did scare me. And I knew there was nobody in there. So I leave the woman's bathroom and I just started going back into the men's. And then I didn't even use the bathroom to wash my hands anymore. And we just ended up with no, I just didn't go in there. Well, that was the extent of what had happened to me, except one night I heard what I thought was someone say wait when I was getting on the elevator to go back to the parking garage, and it was a woman's voice. So I thought that was odd. So I stopped and I looked and I thought surely there's a woman. And so I went and I walked all the way around that whole building, and I used my flashlight, I checked it, and then I just put it on my report that I did an inspection of the floors because I heard something. And there was nobody there.
That's not creepy at all.
Yeah, and so, that's when one of the guys from the parking garage told me that he goes, yeah, there's something wrong. There's none of these. They don't keep tenants, whatever. Well, Scorpion ended up working there, like I said, and he told me, he goes, the first night out he was there, that something really weird had happened to him. And I said, you know what? I don't want to know because I'm going to have to be here. And his post was only going to be for I think 3 weeks or something. And so I didn't want to be there.
Out of sight, out of mind.
After he told me all this stuff, and I said, I already know there's something creepy. I don't envy you being up here. So after the first couple nights that we worked together, I think it was the third night we worked together, I went up and I was sitting there looking down and playing on a video game. I had I think back then it was Game Boy Advance or something. I was playing a game on it, just trying not to, Scorp was doing the same thing. He was sitting there looking at his game. And I look up, and at that moment, I see, for just like a split second, a woman leaning over the railing of the atrium, looking down at us. And so I hit Scorp with my elbow. I said, "Hey," and he looks up, and it's like she turned and was gone. And I was like, "Whoa, this woman." There's a woman in here, and she just turned and ran off. Like she ran, And so Scorp was like, "Okay, you go that side, I go this side." So he ran the other side, I go the other side. You're sitting there looking at a computer screen that is connected to the alarms. There's no alarm that's been tripped. There's nothing there.
No motion detector.
Nothing.
That's
Okay.
unreal, man.
So we ran around. I went to one side. He went to the other. We went up the other 3 floors because there were only it was a weird building. It's a very weird building. There's only 5 floors or 4 floors at the top of the parking garage. So we went all the way up. We looked at each floor. Didn't see anything. And then he tells me, he says, "Okay, you didn't want to know." He goes, "I'm going to tell you now." Okay. I'm seeing this pretty often. Okay. I'm seeing this, what looks like a dark-haired woman. She has long hair and she's leaning over the railing. Well, the second weekend we worked together over there, this guard would come in and they would do patrol, and he was always kind of didn't seem very friendly. He would just come in and do his round real quick, and we really didn't talk to him much. Well, one day we turned in the report to him because he would come in and get the report at the end of our shift and then do his last round. He took our report and he started to look at it, and then he came back. Had never talked to us, and he says, "You guys saw the watchful lady."
Is there a name for her?
Yeah, there was a name, and I was like, "What is that?" And they're like, "The watchful lady is a ghost who she died in that building." That's the story. We never confirmed it, but she took her own life in that building. Her husband had left her, so she killed herself. So that is the ghost that we were seeing. So
the watchful lady.
We talked because people would see this woman staring at them. She would just stare at them. So that was the ghost that we were dealing with at that site. Now, that's not in and of itself just a terrifying, horrifying experience, but, the story that he told us about something that happened to him on another site is very unnerving. And because we told him about the female and we wrote it in the report, he said, that this is what it is. It's a spirit. And I asked him about it. He says, "I've seen her a couple times. You think that I saw a woman staring out the window, looking down at the entertainment district, at the warehouse district, as they call it, Chief. You know that.
Right.
She was looking out the building, staring down at the warehouse district, and he walked up and he said, 'Ma'am,' and she turned and looked at him, and she looked like she was crying, and he says, 'You can't be here,' and she just, like she was gone.
Just dissipated.
Dissipated, yeah.
In front of him? Right in front of his eyes?
Right in front of his eyes.
Yeah, Tony's back.
I've been back.
He's
I've been back.
YouTubers. He's okay.
Yeah, I haven't died.
I promise you he's okay. I mean,
Also, I saw a couple comments saying that they think it's a hotel. It's not really a hotel, right? It was more
like an office, like an atrium.
Yeah, it was.
This
more
isn't
like,
a hotel. No,
No.
this was an office building.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so here's what happened in Goatman stories. We got one for you tonight. I'm going to make sure we won't leave without telling you a Goatman story.
Shout out to Terry Gray.
Here is what we got, okay? This is what happened to the guy with the really cool name. He told us a story. He says, "This is nothing." He's like, "The scariest thing that's ever happened to me happened to me at an apartment complex." Now, this happened... it's in an apartment complex. You probably know the area. It's not far from Reagan High School here in Austin.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Chief, and it's
I'm
close
pretty
to
sure I know
290.
exactly
You live
where.
down 290, so you should know.
Right there off of Cameron.
Oh, don't say it.
Cameron Road.
Yeah, it wasn't Cameron Road. It was close, though. But don't say it, because I don't want them to know, because that is actually a patrol account, and I don't want them... Okay. So here's the
Undisclosed
thing.
location.
Undisclosed location. But it is a very creepy story. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened. He told us, he goes, "This is nothing. I got a ghost story for you that'll knock your socks off." And he's like, it was that night we were all getting ready to leave. And I said, "Well, is it long?" Because we had to get going. I said, "I have to go. I have things I got to take care of." I had to pick up Squid at the down. He was working downtown at the Roxy or whatever. I said, "I got to pick up my roommate." So, he goes, "Well, yeah, it might take a little bit to make sure that he goes, "So let me tell you tomorrow." So we're up there with the watchful lady, and he shows up the next night about 3 o'clock, 3 or 4, whatever. And he goes, "You got a minute?" And I said, "Sure, we're here till 5 o'clock." So he tells us the story of what happened to him at this apartment complex. Now, he was a patrol officer, folks, and doing security. Most of the time, patrol officers don't have access to the office. They don't really need to. The main thing you're going to do at an apartment complex office is you pull on the door and make sure that it's locked. Is that correct, Anthony, Tony?
Yeah, you just
Our patrol guys, that's mostly what they do. Now, we are in the security business, and we don't typically get requests for them to check the inside of an apartment complex office unless there is something that is going on. So this particular complex, they said this was in the middle of the summer. That summer was hot as fire. And he said that they told him, "We need you to go in and check the apartment complex office because we are finding what looks like objects wet." And it's not a leak. They looked everywhere. They tried everything. There's no leaks. So what they thought was going on was somebody was swimming in the pool, and then they were getting into the office somehow. Okay. And there was a former employee that had been fired, and they thought maybe she somehow had gotten the code from somebody from inside the office that was still friends with her. So they were worried that this person might be sour grape, so they're going in there, and maybe they're swimming, and then they're just throwing water everywhere. They didn't really know what was going on. So my friend, I'll call him Falls, Officer Falls.
That's a good point. Could have been wet
So
ectoplasm.
Officer Falls was going into this building and checking it regularly. He said the first week he was there, 2 nights out of the first week, he found water. The other nights it was nothing. There was nothing going on. He reported it. That's all he could do. Okay. What he did see one night after that first week, he said if that first week was over, he did see something in the office. Like it looked like he saw like what was like a shadow moving through the office. So he ran inside as he was pulling up. He checks the office. He doesn't find anything. But it gave him pause, that there was something, and he said that maybe this person had hid or something he didn't think that they could have hid, but it kind of was weird. Now, he said the second time in the second week that it happened was a couple days after that. He was walking around the pool. He said it wasn't that late at night. It was like 11 o'clock. The pool had been closed for about an hour. He was making sure it was locked up. He said he walked around the pool, went around to the inside, and as he was just about to go into this like entry-level room or whatever, he sees a woman walking through the hallway, through the window. Now, he said that it looked like she was wearing a bathing suit, but that she had covered herself with like a towel. So you know how somebody's with a bathing suit, they covered themselves with a towel. You could see the top, of the shoulders, and you could see their legs, and it's obvious that they have on a bathing suit.
Right.
So he said that he was walking through the building. He walked into the building. He saw her walking through the hallway. He says he gets to the hallway. He sees her. She looks flesh and blood. I mean, this looks like a person. She turns and goes into one of the offices, and he's like, ma'am, you can't be in here. So he goes to follow her down the hallway. There's wet footprints. I mean, water, just water. More water than you would think. If somebody's got a towel and they're, you would think this person would be partially dry. He said it was like soaking wet. There was water. And so he followed it, and then she went into one of the offices, and she was sitting on the desk of that office and was staring at the swimming pool. So what he did, he shined his flashlight. He tried to shine his flashlight at her. It wouldn't work. Okay, it was like not coming on. He says, ma'am, you can't be in here, okay? He said that at that point, she began to turn her head around, did not move her body, just turned her head.
Oh, wow, like an owl.
At an unnatural, in an unnatural way.
Distorted her neck.
Turned his head, distorted, and said that her eyes were completely white, and they were bulging out of her head, okay? that she stood up. He said that she kind of like floated up, not really stood. He said that at that point he did not see feet or legs or anything below the towel. She said she dropped the towel, and she said that opened her mouth, and her mouth was just black. And at that point, he clicked the flashlight. It worked at that point. He said after she did all that, the light switch wasn't coming on. The flashlight went right through her body.
Wow. Sound like she might have been drowned or murdered.
Yeah, and he said that she opened her mouth, and he said it. She screeched what sounded like a bird. It was like if a bird was being killed, mixed with the woman screaming for her life.
Definitely an angry
And she said
spirit.
just screamed at him, and he said that he fell backwards. Like it was almost like he could feel like, you know, what we know now to be like how dogmen do infrasound.
Okay.
He said the sound went through his body, and he fell backwards into the wall.
Like a sound you could feel.
A sound you could feel. He dropped his flashlight. He said it gave him an instant headache, and he freaked out, and he said that it was like there was a blinding light. He looked up. This thing came toward him. It just started coming toward him, and he said that it was like it had its arms out toward him, like it was going to try and grab him. And he said that he ran down the hallway, and he turned, and he said that when it got into the hallway, it screeched again, that went through his back and out of his front. He turned around. He flipped the light switch on in the hallway, and she was like, boom, gone.
I don't know. I have a weird theory about water and negative ions and trauma and anything going on. There's stuff that goes around water.
So here's what happened, okay? When I talked to him about this, he told me this story. He was sweating when he told us this story. We heard him tell this story, okay, me and Scorp. And when he told me this story, I just remember thinking, you know, it blew me away. I started asking questions, and I said, when you walked up into the room, did you get an evil feeling from it? And he said, no. I just, at that point, I thought something was weird about it. You know, she's getting in there without the alarm on. But he goes, I thought it was just a woman. It looked like a flesh and blood woman. He said the first clue I had that something was amiss was when I saw my reflection in the window and didn't see hers. He said, and at that point I had just noticed it, and I had said, ma'am, and while I was saying that, he noticed there was no reflection. That's when she turned her head and screamed at him, and he said her face was hideous. I mean, it was just awful. And he said that, so here's what happened. He does the report. Okay, this guy had been working for our company for 3 years at that point. The company we used to work for. He does the report. He turns it in. The field captain, who I actually know very well, the field captain tells him, "What is this? You know, what is this? I can't turn this in." And he says, because they had the two copies or whatever. He says, "Well, I already turned it in." He goes, "Well, you better go back and get it." So Falls said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going back in there. You want that report? You go get it." So the management comes in the next day. They get the report, okay? They contact the guy that actually helped me get my start in the security business as far as having my own business, whatever. They contact him. He's a good guy, former Marine, stand-up guy. They asked him what the meaning of this report was. What is this? You know, he found somebody in here. They disappeared. What is this? Blah, blah, blah. Is there a way that we can talk to this guard? So this guy was the operations manager for the company. So he contacts Falls, and he says, "You need to go up there with me to talk to them." He says, "No, I'm not going up there. I'm not going to do it." He says, basically, you know, if you don't do it, then we're going to lose the account, and, you know, my boss will fire you. Okay, who's the owner? He's going to fire you. And I know the owner of that company. He was kind of a hard guy to work for. Never really messed with me, but he messed with a lot of other people. And so I know he was a hard dude. He would have fired him. So Falls is like, okay. And that company actually paid pretty good for patrol, so he's like, you know, you want me to do it, I'll go
deal
talk
with
to him.
it. Yeah,
Deal with it. So he did. You know, otherwise you just quit. It's also probably one of the largest security companies around, you know, over here. So he went up there to talk to these people, and the whole way over there, my old boss, who was probably, I can only imagine what he was telling him, you know, like, what is this crap? Why did you write this? You know, and he said, it's what happened. It's what happened. So when they get there, they talk to the manager. She's blown away by this report, but she had already had another woman that worked in the office with her that was there during the previous regime that was friends with somebody from the regime before that. So she was already pretty calm, and she said, okay, you saw this happen. She's like, I'm going to be real honest with you since I spoke to you your boss on the phone. She said, I got some information about this, and the other woman was standing there, and she says, yeah, I'll tell you what's going on. There was a woman that was murdered by her boyfriend because she supposedly cheated on him. So he murdered her in the swimming pool, but they never could prove it.
Crime of passion.
They found her drowned, but they think that somebody drowned her, and he was the prime suspect. He never was caught. Now, the messed up thing about that was that those people who had hired us to do that job, they had only had that contract, or they had only had that property management company, for a few months. So this supposedly was something that would go on every summer. This was their first summer there, so they had no idea. So this other girl talked to the girl that she knew from that previous regime and said, yes, this is something that happens. We call her the drowned ghost. So he was off the hook. The guy that used to be my boss, he was kind of stunned, kind of beside himself. Still, though, I don't really think it made him believe in ghosts, although we had another site that was pretty haunted at that company. Never worked it, but had somebody tell me something about it. But yeah, that was sort of pretty messed up. It was a pretty messed up story. But here's something. While I was telling this story to Russell Clark, okay, he's on Facebook. He's a good friend of mine. Like I said, he's my nephew's uncle on the other side. He's a real good guy. We were sitting. Okay, folks, now follow me with this one. This is crazy. We were sitting in my truck a few days ago. We were talking about this. I don't remember what day it was exactly, but it began to rain, and it was very cold. And while we're sitting in the truck guarding another property, it was a 2-man post we were on. We're guarding a post. I tell him this story because I had just gotten in touch with the guy from years ago, and he reiterated it. It sounded just like the way that I remembered it, you know. Went over it with Scorp and was like, hey, do you remember this story? Yeah, he remembers it. He didn't give me any other details that may have been left out. That was the way it was. I talked to Russell Albert Clark, was sitting next to me, and he told me a story about right before Thanksgiving. He was getting ready to have a bunch of relatives come over and whatnot. He heard something jump into the swimming pool. And he looks out the window because he lived in a 2-story house. He looks out the window and he sees nothing. He just sees the water moving, like you could see that somebody had jumped into the swimming pool. Now, I thought that was crazy. I was like, what, you know, that was all there was to that story. But he had some other stories that was based around this house that he lived in that was haunted. Here's what happened to me and him. We were sitting in my truck. The windows kind of fogged up a little bit, you know, not real bad. Mm-hmm. You know, we kept trying to keep the whatever because it's raining. We can't really open the doors or whatever too much. Windows are fogging up. While we're talking, now I'm telling you, this is the absolute truth. I am not making this up. This is the absolute truth. We work on a post where everybody that works there at this point thinks it's haunted because we've had so much weird stuff happen. I'm talking me, the maintenance people, the management. We've all had a bunch of weird stuff happen. It's a very bad property, and there's been a bunch of stuff that's happened there. There's been deaths and stuff. A word appeared on my windshield. Chief, I know you haven't heard this story. I haven't told you this, but a word appeared on my windshield.
How dare you?
That word was feweth. While we were talking about these ghost stories about the drowned ghost and the thing jumping in his pool, I don't know what this means.
So hold on. You were talking to your officers about encounters that were happening on the site and something.
No,
wrote
we
on
were
the
was-
window?
no. I
he
was
was-
telling Russell Albert Clark
Okay.
the story that had happened. So you were looking at your phone, you weren't paying attention.
So what happened was
You jackball.
he was in the truck working maybe a week back with another officer, and he was going over this story with him.
I was telling him because I had just gotten the story that day from the guy he had told
Okay,
to me
you were
years
relaying
ago.
the story.
Yes, years ago, this guy had told me this story. Folks, I'm having to catch him up because he's getting texts from his wife.
I'm getting tired. I'm just kidding.
So,
A little cranky.
so what happened was I was talking to Russell Clark, okay, and I would explain who he was, and we were talking about these water ghosts, whatever they are, okay. A word appeared on my windshield, and we both saw it. And what is really weird is that it said feweth.
How do you spell that?
It was spelled F-U, what I thought was an E-T-H. And so Russell's like, what is that? And we both look, and neither one of us had gotten up, so the other one couldn't accuse, from the time we started talking about
like
it.
The fewest, but in
No, listen to what I'm going to tell you. It was feweth, but Russell said we should look up this word. Okay, now Russell, if you're listening, I hope you can verify this. He said he would be willing for anybody that's on here listening to go to him and ask if this is true. He will tell you this is a true story. Okay, you can question him. He's on Facebook. Feweth was spelled F-U-E-T-H, I thought, because the E looked kind of odd though. We looked it up. Feweth there's nothing of any that didn't make any sense. It was nothing there.
I got nothing right.
Right? Nothing, right? Okay, well, the next night, I was working with him, and Scorp was working with me too, and he was actually coming in to relieve Scorp. So I was sitting there with all three of them. So I had Scorpion, okay, and I had Russell. And I saw the word appear again because it was the windows were fogging up, whatever, and I said, there's that word again. So when I'm looking at it, Scorp's in the front seat, and I said, Scorp, what does it look like to you? And he says, feweth. And then I said, ath. So I looked at the E, and I said, dude, it's an A. It's an A. That is not an E. It is an A. And so I looked up that word, feweth. Now, anybody who's listening can look that word up.
I'm looking it up right now.
Oh wow, yeah, I just looked it up.
Look it up. Now, Tony, tell me what it means, what it says.
A fewth, literally meaning hate in Scottish Gaelic and Irish Gaelic, designates a class of
Malevolent
Highland
water demons
Yeah.
or water spirits.
Gaelic mythological water spirits.
Wait.
Okay.
It was condensation on the glass.
It was on the glass on my truck. Now, here's what I did. Now, the next day, you know how you can look if you take your fingerprint and rub it on your windshield, you'll see
It'll be
The
there.
oil.
the
Yeah.
oils from
Yeah,
your
yeah.
fingers. Yes, it was completely gone. And I showed Scorp and Russell, and I showed my brother. I said, "Do you see this? It's gone.
Wow.
You can't see like the finger. You couldn't." And then once we defogged the window that night, the first night and the second night, you couldn't see anything. And so, and I just to make sure, I looked at it in broad daylight. I don't know what that was, but while we were talking about these water demons, spirit, ghosts, whatever you want to call them, the word feweth.
It wrote its name on the
You know
window.
what's really scary?
in
Well,
water.
It's
For
raining.
condensation.
It's raining. You're talking about water spirits. In the condensation, that word disappears.
It
Yeah, that's
appeared.
why I
How-
brought that up. You
How
know what I
freaky
mean?
is that?
So you tell me what you think of that. I don't know. Yeah, it was weird, and I honestly I think something out there at that property that we've been doing security at was listening to us talk about these things, and it just wrote it on there. That's the only thing I could think of. And that sounds just ludicrous, I know, to the average person. You're probably thinking Wolf has lost his mind or he's crazy, whatever. Well, my stories are crazy anyway, but I mean, come on. I don't know what to make of that. I was with two other people the second time it happened, and the first time. No, what was even weirder though. Now get this. The first night, me and Russell saw it. I was almost convinced that the A, which turned to be an A, was an E. Mm-hmm. So the next night, when we were with Scorp, it was very clear that it was an A. It was one of those A's, those fancy A's like you
Right.
see in the books.
Looks like a backwards E.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Upside down
Yes.
backwards E.
And Scorp's like, that's an A. It's not an E. And so I was like, okay. So I go and I look it up, and that's when we found the whole water demon thing. And I'm going like, oh my gosh.
John Doe, the Fuath was actually stated that it was a water spirit or demon. Mm-hmm. That's where it would be able to manipulate condensation.
So that is what happened to me, folks. That's what happened to Russell, and Scorp was with me. You can ask either one of those guys. I mean, they're on Facebook all the time. You know, Carney 8, whatever your name is, laugh out loud. You can laugh out loud all you want. That's what happened, and that's the absolute truth. I don't know what else to tell you. Now, here's what happened to me.
It's like we're not quoting R.L. Stein or Sarah Michelle Gellar movies or anything like that, guys. These are encounters that his employees or people that
relay to him,
relay to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we just tell it how we hear it. So, I mean, how we're giving
Don't
the
shoot
story.
the messenger, guys.
Yeah.
We don't
And
take
as far as
liberties.
the story about the pool ghost and all that, I mean, Russell was there. He told me about what jumped in his pool. You know, Falls told me what happened to him. I believe both of them because they told me these stories face to face. And Falls, after years of not having talked to the guy, when I got in touch with him through his sister, because a guy that I used to work security with, I still talk to, and he got me in touch with his sister. Unfortunately, the guy has cancer. He's not well. He got on the phone and he told me that story, and it was exactly the same. And when I relayed it to Scorpion, he said that's exactly how he remembered it. There was no, BS. The story didn't change.
No embellishments.
No, he just told it the way he said it. I mean, just like we had talked that night years ago. So, folks, you tell me what you think of that. You want to think that I'm making up stuff? You believe what you want to believe, okay? I don't sit up here and make up stuff. All these stories are stories that are given to me. That's the bottom line.
If you have encounters, send us your encounters. We want to share your encounters.
Rachel, the Fox Hollow Farm pool haunting. Yeah, actually, Anna. I'm going to say her name, Anna Choates. We say her name wrong. I'm so sorry, Anna. Anna Coates. Or it is Choates, right?
Yeah,
It's
that was Choates.
Okay, Anna Choates came on our show, Rachel, and she did a 2-part episode on the investigation of Fox Hollow Farms. I believe it's called, Anthony, what is it? You named it.
It's an interview with Anna Choates.
Yeah, but it's called
but Fox Hollow Farms is
a haunting at Fox Hollow Farms.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's
haunting
it.
it.
A haunting
Shout out
at-
to Anna.
It's called a haunting at Fox Hollow Farms, and Anna Choates is the one that gave us that story.
Shout out to Anna. She's a legit boots on the ground paranormal investigator.
Yeah, I can't.
Yes.
She said she was doing something today. I can't wait for her.
Yeah,
to-
actually, and she did some work with the John Wayne Gacy thing or whatever. Like she's out there looking for these.
You don't have to be a boots on the ground legit paranormal investigator. You could just send us your encounters. We don't care about qualifications or credentials or anything. We're just here to share your stories.
Yeah, and like TW, do you guys get spiritual protection? All these, I pray all the time. I'm in constant prayer. I'm going to be real honest with you. The place I'm working at right now, folks, is very rough area. It is a very bad area. We have cleaned that complex up, and we have cleaned it up. And I'm talking, it was open air market crack. I mean, they were selling everything you could think of. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. You're gonna think I'm lying. You're gonna think I'm making this up. But I was out there with 2 of my guards walking around, and the first week we were there, and Chief, I don't know if I told you this, but somebody came up to us and asked us if we had any crack.
Wow.
In uniform.
Yeah, he's wearing his uniform.
Yeah.
It's like an
Uniform.
open air.
It was crazy,
It's like
dude.
a hood pulga.
It was bad. Runberg, bro. Runberg.
Oh.
Runberg. Austin is getting big, and Runberg's always been bad, but it's real bad now. So we're over there, and
Can't
not
even
only
drive through there anymore.
not only did somebody ask us if we had some crack, we also got offered some crack. Somebody, when I drove in one night, when the first week we were there, they figured it out pretty quick. They were like, "Hey man, you need something?" And this guy comes in my truck, and I was like, "You can get the F away from my truck." And I got out, and he saw the badge and the uniform and everything. He was like, "Oh, okay." So he walked off, real quick, and I was like, "Hey, come here," And at that point, he ran. But that's the kind of job we're doing. It pays very well. I'll be real honest. But 1111 says 1111 on there. It pays very well, but it is a very dangerous place. My wife hates me working there, but I told her this would be my last rodeo. No more government housing after I'm done with this. This will be it for me.
No harm, no foul, Carney, 1865.
But we're trying to get, we're just trying to get through this account. It's probably going to end toward the first of the year. Everyone out there, just pray for me, my safety, my guys' safety. It is not a safe place, but we have made strides, and it is probably the safest complex in that area now.
A witch doctor told me that Mother Africa will not let me die.
What?
But I don't work for these guys, so.
Oh my gosh!
I was going to say, like, what are you talking about?
All right. So, anyways, the bottom line though is that the place it's a very unsafe place. There's been a stabbing since we've been there. There's been a stabbing, an OD, and all these people dying. So, here's what happened to me at that complex. I'll tell you what's happened to me at that complex that I'm working at right now so far up to this point. The first thing that happened to me was one of my guards was working for me. And he tells me, he asked me point blank if he's like, do you ever notice how these people go into the back stairwells and they disappear? And I thought he was talking about how they duck into, apartments, because when we first got there was a lot of vacants that they could duck into. Now we've kind of cleaned them all out. And if you go there now, it's like night and day from when it was when we first started back in June. So it's gotten a lot better. But I said, yeah, I kind of get that. And he goes, oh, okay, because he goes, they'll be going back that back breezeway, and they will just vanish. And I'm going like, what are you talking about? Like I didn't really understand what he was talking about. So I was working the day shift, and I went to night shift, and the night shift was like a zoo. When we first started working, it was terrible. And I did notice that a couple times. I was working with one of the guards, and I'm not gonna say his name because I didn't ask for permission or whatever, but he told me that he noticed it. I know Scorpion D noticed it, that they were noticing that people were disappear. Like, you're watching someone, and then they go into the shadows, and then they kind of just go away. Now, the lighting wasn't real good. They finally fixed that problem. But we all noticed it. We all saw it. I eventually saw it after about a week or so. I noticed I would see people in the windows of the vacants, and I would go in there, and there would be nobody in there, and it's on the second floor, and you're going like, what the heck's going on? Now, the management, there's a new management company that came in a couple months ago, right after we did. So this is our second regime that we've been through, going on our third. And the second this next regime that came in, they came in, and after the first week, the manager lady was already like kind of having problems. Well, we found out from some of the residents that 3 regimes ago, somebody walked into that office and opened fire and shot the manager. This is the office that for 2 months I was in doing my paperwork and stuff and doing my stuff. I take my lunch break in there and everything else and not knowing that there had been a homicide in there. So I talked to one of the cops about it, and they were like, oh, yeah, that was a long time ago. It was a few years or whatever, a couple years. He said he wasn't for sure, but he couldn't be for certain, but he thinks it was more than a couple years ago. So, yeah, it did happen, okay, but I don't know the whole circumstances of it. I know 2 people were shot, and 1 was murdered. So I'm sitting in this office after I had already been told by one of my guards during the day that they were seeing people disappearing. I'm talking like during the day, not just at night. So I'm sitting there and I'm eating my lunch during that first week. And this was prior to me knowing that somebody had been killed there. We have cameras in there that my company has installed, okay, folks? So this is quality work. We're not talking about some other cameras that were some junk, We had my guys install these cameras. They work very well. I'm sitting there at the desk, and I'm sitting there eating my lunch or whatever, trying to hurry because, I had the guard outside waiting for me to eat because the place was so bad you had to babysit it. You couldn't have both of us in the office at the same time because they'd be going crazy out there. So he was out there by himself, and I noticed on the cameras, the camera began to go like flicker, like it was flickering. So I'm looking over, and I see this camera flickering, and I'm going like, this was back in July. And I looked, and I thought, that is so weird. Why is the camera messing up? So I get up, and I kind of mess with the camera to try to fix it. So I noticed that it wasn't the camera messing up, like, because you could rewind it, and it would mess up at that point. It wasn't an electrical
It's
connection.
almost like the glitch was recorded.
It was recorded. And it did it a couple more times over the next couple nights. Now, about the third night I was in there, it did it. And I look on the camera and I see what looks like a shadow in the office. The way it's made is you're in the office and then there's a front room where the camera is actually facing, and on that corner camera you can see it's facing the front room. So I look through what's essentially a window into that front room, and I'm looking. I don't see anything, but on camera I see a shadow.
Wow.
I see a shadow squatted down in the corner of the room, and I'm going like, what in the heck is that? And so I get up and I rewind it, and then I fast forward it, and I keep looking, and I keep getting up and going and looking, and I don't see this shadow, but I see it on camera.
No, what time was this? Was it all around the same time?
This was probably about 2:30 in the morning.
And it happened at 2:30 in the morning every time, or was it just this particular?
No. The first couple times I didn't really like pay attention to the time.
Okay.
I just thought that the camera was messing up. But when I saw the shadow, like I think it was the third time, that's when I actually noticed the time was 2:30. Now I looked, I saw this thing sitting in the corner of the room. It looked like, and I say sitting, folks, because it looked like someone crouched down, but it looked like a shadow. Now I lived in a house that had a lot of paranormal activity, Chief. We've
Yep.
done shows about it because you live there too.
Been there, done that. Got a closet full of shirts.
Yeah. So there was something in the corner of this room, looked like a shadow. It looked like somebody squatted down in the corner. And then I noticed that this shadow began to grow.
Now hold on.
It began to...
Do we mean like a real shadow? Like if like right now the lamp is casting a shadow over there, or that black stuff that we had at the house?
It was like the black stuff at the house. I was going to get to that. This shadow began to unfurl and kind of go up, and it became like almost like the shape of a person. And it was like you said, Chief, the black, kind of like the black thing that would jump out and out of the mirror. Episode 2,
right?
In my show, we talked
Like,
about it. Then you come on
I called
later.
it the black matter, like because it seemed like black.
I don't know
smoke.
what episodes you were on when you came on and we talked about this.
I want to say
5 and 6. No, that was
11 and
back
12.
on. Was it?
And then 30 through 33, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah, you came on and we talked about that. But we talked about the house.
Right, the house we did 2 sessions, and then folklore I think we did 3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was the 2 on the house, and it was early in the podcast life.
Yeah, and so if you go back, folks, and you listen to it, you'll hear what we're talking about, what Chief's referring to. It did look like that, Chief. It did. Now, Tony, I told you when this happened, you remember this, we talked about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what, it freaked me out. So I knocked on the window, and I got D's attention, and D comes inside, and he's like, what's going on? Well, when he came inside, that thing moved through the wall and was gone. Now, I told him, I said, dude, there's something on this camera. Well, when I rewound it, I showed him. It was, how do you...
It was gone.
It was gone.
It glitched out, basically.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't gone. I mean, the shadow was there on the camera,
okay.
but it wasn't there when, like, he didn't see it go by
Couldn't
the door when he
physically see
came
it,
in. Yeah.
but he could see it on the camera.
Yeah, okay. So then there was another night when I was in there, and D was standing outside vaping, whatever, like he does. And I was standing there, and the guard's outside, and I'm inside eating my lunch again, and the camera does that same little, starts doing that weird ticking noise and making weird, and it kind of like it starts to blink out, I don't know what that is. I can't figure that out. I talked to the guy who does the cameras. He can't tell me what it is. I see this... What looks like very clear as day, it's on camera, 2 guys walk by the office. Now there's nothing unusual about that. There were 2 white guys. Now, the complex I work at is like 90% black and Hispanic. There is maybe 3 or 4 residents that were black or were non-black and Hispanic. Okay. And they were like, I think 2 Arabs, so I think there were like maybe 3 different white people that live there. They were not these people. And these people looked like they didn't fit in. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
They looked like
They stood out.
they stood out, yes. And I saw them walking by the office
We're not in Kansas anymore.
on
Toto.
camera. I saw them on camera. I saw them walk by the office. Now I just turned my head and I looked out the window. I don't see them walking by the window, but I see them walking by the window on camera. So I get up and I'm like, hey. And so I'm yelling at the guard. I'm like, hey, you know, those two guys, they just went around the corner and they went by the swimming pool. And so he runs over there with me. We go around just like right around the corner. They couldn't have gone anywhere except maybe the laundry room. Okay. So we look in the laundry room. I shine my light and there's nobody in there. There's nobody. We walked all the way around that whole back part of the complex. We were stunned. I was baffled.
You know what's
So who were these white guys that were walking by the office because they didn't fit in at all? They looked like they were business people or something.
or maybe even outdated clothes, kind of maybe.
Kind of, yeah. I guess you could say that. Like maybe they looked like they were wearing clothes that you would see in a nice clothes from like the 70s or something.
Okay.
That's what I guess I could say. The camera doesn't really give it a good because they kind of look blurred almost when we replayed it.
I got you. That's kind of unsettling, man. Especially, being an SO in my past, being a security officer, working for you in my past, having to explain to someone, I could see them on camera, but I can't see them with my own eyes. That's pretty. That's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean,
I'd have to write those reports.
you gotta imagine like if they check in the cameras and they see that, and then like they're just like, well, who's that?
Right, who's this right here?
And you're like, well, there was no one there. You know, I went around, I checked it, I couldn't find anything. How do you explain it?
Right.
You know,
Very, very weird. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know what that was. I can't tell you what that was. I just know that it was on the cameras. Now, here's one other thing that happened to me of interest.
Rachel, go get your appendix checked, girl.
Whoa, okay, that's not good.
Yeah, let's go get that check, please.
So, what happened was I was sitting there. I was sitting in my truck at broad daylight. I was doing a day shift, and I see what I think is a Hispanic guy walk up toward my truck. Now, you know, I was looking down at my phone, typing, doing the report, the phone report. Okay, and I see this guy. You know how you look down, and if you take your left hand and you kind of wiggle it, you can see your hand in the peripheral of your vision. There was a guy that was walking toward me in my peripheral, and I see him. I don't look up at him. I just think he's walking by, going to the store, and I even think I might know who he is from what apartment he comes from. He goes and he stands directly in front of my truck, and then he just turns and he stares right at me, and I could tell the guy's staring right at me, and I'm like, okay, a-hole, you're going to make me get out of my truck and mess with you. So I take my phone and I go, what? And I start to put it down, and I look up. Now, here's what happened, Chief. The guy was gone. I'm not talking about like he did, he went away.
Yeah,
he was
ran away,
standing there. He was gone.
Right.
So I jumped out of my truck and I was like, whoa.
Just completely vanished.
Yeah. So I started walking around the truck, looking under the truck.
Trying to make sure he's not.
I'm in the middle of the
right.
parking lot and there's no other vehicles around me. So I don't know where this guy could have went. So I look up and there's one of the residents that's always hanging out on his balcony on the corner. And I asked him, I said, hey, did you see somebody over here walking around down here? And he goes, no, just you. And I'm like, okay. So that was weird. So then when Scorp told me that him and Dee both said that, and Russell saying that they were seeing people walking around, okay, it was really starting to, it's starting to happen to me too. I was starting to notice that there was something. People, you would see them and then they would disappear. Like, happened one other time. I saw somebody by the trash cans, and I came around the corner by the pool, and I thought that was somebody going to throw something away, and then I look up, and they were gone. So we're convinced that the place is haunted.
Well, I mean, it's already in a bad neighborhood, so you imagine
Where there's
all
been
the
a lot of
death,
murders and things.
all the murders,
ODs.
all the residual spirits and energy that's just there.
yeah, there's real negative energy just all around there.
I'd imagine there's a lot of spirits, disgruntled spirits that are around just because of ODs. You know what I mean? People that aren't aware they died.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, just going. I mean, just like what I was talking about with that little girl, just doing what they're normally doing, and they just don't realize that they're dead. You
Right. And no idea that they should pass on.
Mhm.
Just kind of stuck in limbo.
That's crazy though. Like, what do you think that is? That like they could be caught on camera, or like you can see them on like a mirror, but when you turn around, they're just gone.
Maybe some kind of I don't know. Maybe that's back to the whole negative ion thing, man. Something that the camera is able to catch that energy. Is able to catch that energy on camera or on film or record. Whereas our own eyes, I think that's a test to the whole veil. The whole you always hear people talking about the quote unquote veil. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something in the technology, or maybe kind of like your EVP. You know what I mean? People, you can pick up electronic voice phenomenon because of a low frequency.
Yeah.
Maybe there's the low frequency in the video or whatever component it is about video where you could pick up
just a little vibration. Maybe they're just vibrating at a certain frequency.
Different frequency.
And at that point, you can just see them on camera because that's just
a disembodied spirit's frequency.
I mean, hey, even from one person to another, like what one person can perceive with as far as audio visual information, like will be totally different from what someone else can hear or see. Like if you've ever heard of that Taos hum.
Taos hum.
That hum.
Yes.
Some people they swear that they can hear it, and that it bugs them, and then some people are just like, "What are you talking about? I don't hear anything."
Right.
Chad Kitchen says we autofocus too quick.
John Doe said, "Bro, those aren't ghosts. Those are dope heads. They move quick." Possibly, bro.
We John, I'll tell you what, man. I've been around 1,000 dope heads out there, and they don't move that quick. All right, believe me, buddy.
Dope heads aren't even the same anymore. Back in the day, they'd clean your car.
Yeah, they do stuff for the
grass.
Money, yeah.
Not that we would know why, Chief.
Now some of them are fatter than me, bro. What's going on?
You're seeing them. Hey, there are a couple out there like that too. You're sitting there, they're like fat as heck. They're like, I got these cheeseburgers. I'm gonna eat them myself, man.
Well, I think Joe Rogan said it the best, man.
And they're functioning too. There's functioning crackheads.
Transients, homeless people are fatter than we are now.
Oh,
let that sink in.
Queen B was that? Please do more vampire stories. I have a vampire story lined up now.
We had an energy vampire earlier. The guy that, oh, hello.
Hey, no doubt. No doubt. I have a vampire story. If you guys want to hear that one,
real quick, I just want to say I was born in Denver, so hello to you. Roy, 1, 2, 3.
Shut up. Nobody cares about you,
It's
Tony.
on the comment. You guys are reading a bunch of...
Denver, Colorado. He's saying
Shout out
hello.
to Roy,
He's a
1, 2,
fan.
3.
He's saying
Roy,
hello.
you're saying hello, but
I'm
don't mix yourself up
my
with this guy.
hometown.
This guy Tony over here.
Don't feed the apes.
Look at Jay Ward's comment.
Where is it?
My Spanish-speaking friends must think highly of me because they call me Mighty Kong.
I don't think Jay Ward.
Ward.
Go ahead and email me on that, and I'll clear that up for you.
I hope everyone caught that one. Oh, guys. You guys are great. You know what? I love this. This is the first live show I've done. I don't know how many I'm going to do, but you guys are great. This is why I do it. You know, I mean, we got people in the chat room, and you're listening, and we're having fun.
Without you guys, we'd just be here talking to ourselves. So,
yeah, I mean,
shout out to all the listeners.
Yeah, and so anybody who can make it, you know, tell your friends, post, and you know, let them know that we're on live. We're doing this.
Oh, Jesus. Hunter is just mean to me.
I've seen a few.
He called me a toy earlier. You look at this. You don't matter, Tony.
Well, Hunter's very Hunter, you're very astute. That's you realize
he's been on me all.
Send us some encounters,
night.
Hunter. We'd like to have you on the show.
Hunter, stay on him because you know somebody's got to.
You're a wise man.
He's a wise man.
Susie Ford, you're the best.
Shadow Hunter says, "Great job, Wolf, with your live chat. I appreciate it. We didn't. You know what? I owe the credit all to myself. Honestly, it's all me. I owe. You know, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. We got Anthony. He's the one that did the magic behind it all. He's the one that did it.
Yeah,
like, you know,
he does a lot.
And guys, remember Sal can't be with us. He had a death in the family, and so
he's in Houston.
it really bothers me that he's not able to be here. He really wanted to be here, and I feel so bad for him. You know, keep him in your thoughts and your prayers, and
we miss you, Sal.
Lift him up. You know, he's a good guy, and he'll be around. We have a ton of shows we've already recorded, and we're going to be gang stalking.
No, our podcast doesn't specialize in that, but we know a few that do, and you can, probably find them.
Hear about orbs or shadow people. I'll tell you what, I got a lot of stuff about shadow people. I can tell you that.
Chief. I just logged on. The reason you can't see them is due
Due to the calculation of the pineal
Calcification.
gland,
The seat of the
seat
soul, all-seeing eye.
I got you.
Shout out, Chief. Why are you shouting out the Chief?
Anthony Vidano, that's my professor.
Who the heck
over
is
at
Chief, man?
Arcanum Combat.
Who is Chief?
Chief?
You should put the hey
Chuff.
You know what you should do? You should just like put it on a billboard. Who is Chief?
Who is Chief?
Just put it on a billboard.
Yeah.
People would driving
do
down
that.
35 and just go like,
Who is
"Wow,
Chief?
that's a good question."
Who is?
Is that the guy from South
Goo-
Park that was
Google
the
Chief?
the school cafeteria?
The
chef.
The chef.
It was Chef.
Hello, children.
So, anyways, let me tell you a quick vampire story. Now I got one. Now I don't want to give it away because I'm trying to build them up to get to do a whole show about it. But I will tell you there was a story. Okay, and this and I don't know what to call this. I don't know if you should call it a vampire story. This one happened in New Mexico near Ruidoso. Anybody knows where that's at? It's a nice place. Me
Good
and my
skiing
wife have
over
been
there.
out there a couple times, and it's and the Inn of the Mountain Gods. Don't go there. You'll just lose your money, dude. It will just take your money.
Take my money.
So here's the thing. Somebody had told me this story. They said it was in between. It was at a campground that they went to in between Ruidoso and not a campground, a rest stop. I'm sorry, from Ruidoso to I'm trying to remember the name of the town because I know you go from Roswell to Ruidoso. Anthony, we were out there.
Angel Fire.
I know it's south
Oh,
of
that's
there. I
Colorado.
know that. There was a place south of Ruidoso, and they stopped at some place, to use the bathroom or something. And
Farmington.
they went to. It was in the middle of the night, and they stopped. They went into the back. Now you guys can tell me what you think this is. I don't know what this is. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to classify it as. I'll call it a vampire story because they went to use the bathroom. They go around behind one of those rest stop area bathrooms, whatever. And I think that they said they were from Ruidoso, or they were coming from Ruidoso, and they were going to El Paso, or they were headed to somewhere. And so they were going south anyway of Ruidoso, let's put it that way. And they stopped. They went to the back of this building to use the bathroom because it was one of those where the it has that like cement wall. You kind of got to go around and go in. And it was like at a rest stop. And they said that when they got around the corner, they scream, they hear a scream or whatever coming from inside, and it sounded like a man dying or something. He goes right into the front of the bathroom. He's still around that little wall right there, and he looks and he sees this thing that was all black. Okay. But it had clothes. It was clothed. It had clothes, like a normal person wears. And it was all black. He said that he remembers the face very clearly. It had pointy-looking ears, almost like you would see like an elf. And he said that it had its mouth down, and it was chewing on this person's neck and face.
Wow.
And he said that he was 17 or 16 when it happened. And I guess he's, older now. He's like in his 40s, whatever. This is absolutely true. He gave me this story a while back, and he said that he was with his sister, I think, and I think that was it. It was just him and his sister. It was him and a female. But he said he yelled, and she was in the other bathroom or whatever, and she came out and she ran around and go to that, and he pushed her out of that and said, "What?" She's like, "What?" And then he grabbed her, and they went and they got in the vehicle and they drove off. They got down the road and they tried to make a phone call, like they stopped somewhere to call because this was back when if he's around my age, you say he was in his 40s, and this was back when he was 16. There wasn't no cell phones. I mean,
I don't know. You say pointy ears, I want to go vampire, but then you say black with clothes, I want to say werewolf.
But it
old school
wasn't. He said it
werewolf
didn't
with
hair. It was bald.
Like horror.
He
movie.
said it was bald
bald
on the
and
head
black.
anyway, and that it was black. And he said not like a black person, like an African American person, or like a dark skinned person. It was black, as in black is like my shirt is
Like
black.
that, like the black matter that we talk about.
That's what he was talking about, and he said that it
Like
didn't
inky.
it didn't even look up at him,
Oh,
dude. He
okay,
just
I
saw
got
it
you.
from the side profile, but he said that the eyes were weird, like the eyes were kind of going around the side of the head.
I hate to refer to movies.
I don't know
but
what
kind of
that
like the
is.
lichens, how they're like black skinned and not like black fur.
He's pretty adamant that it wasn't werewolf-like at all.
Okay.
It didn't have a snout because I, Chief, you know me, I'm pretty thorough.
I know.
I get in there and I ask all kinds of questions to the point of aggravation.
nice
And
and deep
people,
like.
people, I'm sorry. I will apologize ahead of time if I do talk to you about your stories and I get them from you. Sometimes people get aggravated talking to me because I'll just keep asking questions, and folks, the reason is because I need to know all the details from you so I
That's
can
a
put
good
that out
guess
there.
right there. Des Moines, Mars, Wendigo? ?
Yeah, didn't have any antlers, anything like
No
that.
antlers.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing that's what I said. The only thing I could think of was a vampire. It was eating a guy's face and neck, or it was killing him. I don't know what that could be. It was in the middle of the night. It was in a bathroom, behind in a building, and I just don't. That's all I got. That's all I know.
Yeah, the weird thing is just the coloring, though. Like the coloring of it just being like an inky black just makes it like it throws you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're thinking
what
like
that
black skin and not black fur or black hide.
I don't know how to.
I need to do some confirming, but I know there's another park. There's a park here in Texas where there's dog man
Schlitterbahn?
sightings. Schlitterbahn.
It's the hottest, coolest time in
It
Texas,
is
dude.
the
It's also
hottest,
the
cool-
largest water
It is
park
the
in
hottest
all.
cool in times there.
We folks here
Are we
in
getting a
Texas-
residual income for advertising?
Well, no, but I'd like to tell people that we
Well,
have
Schlitterbahn worth it, I think.
we have the largest water park in the entire world here in Texas, in New Braunfels. And we also are actually building in Round Rock. We are building the largest indoor water park in the world in Round Rock. But that being said, we don't want you here, so don't come. Just kidding. If you're a fan of Paranormal Round
traffic
Table,
sucks here.
it does. Believe me, it's horrible. If you're a fan of Paranormal Round Table, guys,
Move here.
you come to Texas. Bring yourself to Texas.
You visit our water parks, all right?
You are welcome anytime. You be a fan of our show.
Try our elotes.
Another thing I was going to ask, because we got all these people in the chat room, what do you guys think about us doing like special episodes where you can only get them if you have a subscription, and we do special
Like a Patreon.
The Chief Hour.
Well,
You're
because
starting to listen to me.
We're trying to figure out a way to be able to do the show more often, and we're trying to do it to where we can make it more like because we don't make any money off of it, so we're trying to make it a way to where we can get more time to do. Because now Sal's fixing to have to start working part time for me, because he's got 2 kids in college, man, and I got a lot of things I got to take care of, trying to buy a house. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to work more hours, which means I can't talk to you guys as much, and I want to be able to do this more often because I'm getting just totally inundated with stories. Which, by the way, Chief, you need to start helping me with it. Because Lazy Bone Sal is not doing it.
You're backlogged on your email. People hit me up, and I'll kind of help these guys out. But
Yeah, and the problem is,
start forwarding stuff over to my email.
So yeah. So, anyways, is there anything else, guys, that you would like to hear? Because
speaking of Mexico, I know you said New Mexico, but the baby. Remember the security guard in Mexico City?
The baby? The Mexican baby?
Baby, tiny baby.
The Mexican baby?
Little baby.
The little Mexican baby. I'm the baby. I'm the little baby.
Okay. Okay.
You know what story I'm talking about, though? The one where we were going to...
yeah, I absolutely do.
Yeah,
I know
we're
what you're
out.
talking about. And the guy, I know the guy, too. He's a good friend. He's on the show.
Shout out to Odessa. Shout out to Brownsville.
So there's a guy. His name starts with an E.
Ernesto.
And it's not him. It's not him.
Encarnacion.
And it's not, yeah.
Encarnacion.
No, it's you'll never guess his name. He has a very Hispanic name. He's from Mexico. And what he told me is a story, guys. He was a security guard and then you guys are drinking coffee in front of me, and I can't have any. Can't even have the decaf because it's got trace caffeine in it.
Hey, the doctor said I could have 2 tacos, bro. Two and a half
Then
tacos.
you know where you need to go get those tacos?
3 of them.
You know
3 tacos.
Now it's 3, fat boy.
God.
You,
Just let me order.
do you know where you need to go get them? What do you need to go get the tacos? at,
Taqueria
Anthony?
Selena.
Nah,
No,
that's
you gotta
good.
go to-
Dessau.
Nah, that place is
And
good. I'm just talking
Howard
about.
Lane.
No. Tell him.
Are we talking breakfast
Dude,
tacos?
No,
Mexican
just tacos.
Well, obviously, he needs to go to the place across the street from Palo
Tyson's
Santo.
Tacos.
Tyson's
Tacos.
Are they a
tacos,
knockout?
They're 24
got
hours.
the-
We
yeah.
can leave here right now and go
Let's
get
go.
We should.
We're done,
Bye,
folks.
guys. See
Thanks
ya.
for coming.
I mean, y'all are
And
cool.
that concludes the
Y'all are
show.
cool, but we're hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
Tacos
Y'all
are
ain't
tacos.
I'm gonna
Tacos.
call it in
Come
right
on.
now, bro.
It's
Let me get
tacos.
two
Y'all are cool, but y'all
pastor.
aren't tacos.
Del Pastor is very good. So,
Hold the
anyways,
cheese.
folks, here's the story. Okay, I'm sorry. These people, they always sidetrack me. Y'all know how they are. They're terrible.
I'm hungry.
So here we go. Here's what happened to the guy in Mexico City. He was the security guard in Mexico City, and he had an encounter with what they called the demon. I don't want to call the name yet because then you'll know. So okay, he confronts someone in the parking lot of the shopping center. This isn't a real long story or anything, but it is a creepy one. That is full. It's going to spill on that table, boy. And I'm going to throw hot coffee on you on the air.
You can't if it spills.
Hot grits.
Hey, he's going to spill that on your computer, man. I'm just telling you right now, this guy. Yeah, you little turd. Okay.
This coffee is delicious.
You know what?
He makes good
Hunter
coffee.
needs to get back
He does
on,
everything.
get
That's-
back on you and
That's
attack
some
you.
gourmet stuff.
That's what needs to happen. So what ends up happening is he was doing his rounds, and in the middle of the night, around midnight, he said that there was a woman that was walking around the parking lot very quickly. She looked like a normal woman. She was actually kind of pretty, and she was walking with a baby in a baby carriage, and he could hear the baby kind of crying, whatever. He thought it was odd that she was walking around at midnight in the middle of in the shopping center. So he was like, okay, that's weird. But he figured she was just walking by, wasn't a problem. So he didn't go out and mess with her the first night. She just walked through. Well, the next night he's out there and he sees it again, and she does the same thing. So after 2 nights in a row of this woman walking by at like midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever, he goes and he asks the property manager. He's like, who is this woman that's walking around at night? You know, I see her walking through with a baby carriage, whatever, pushing a baby carriage, whatever. The property manager just plays it off like, oh, I don't know, could be anybody. It's nothing big, nothing, whatever. But he hears the baby getting like screaming at the second night. The baby was screaming like at the top of his lungs. It was just like going off. And he thought, man, this is weird. You know, this woman's walking around at like midnight, and the next night she's walking around. It's like 1:30, whatever. He asked one of the property managers. They just kind of like blew off his question. Like it was So third night he's out there. He sees this woman again, but this time he catches up to her and he's walking alongside her. And he's like, ma'am, and it was even later. It was like almost 2 o'clock. He goes, ma'am. He goes, you really can't be walking through this property because you're on camera. You're not supposed to be on the property. I'm not supposed to let anybody walk on this property.
We're closed, lady.
So she tells him in Spanish, basically, my baby. That's the only thing she says in Spanish. And he's like, your baby? And she's like, my baby. So she keeps walking. He walks alongside her, and she starts to walk abnormally fast to the point where he realizes he's jogging along next to her to keep up with her. He can't catch up to her. And then she turns the corner real quick behind a dumpster, and he catches up to and then she's gone. So he's like, what in the heck, He said the third night that this happened to him, that there was no crying from the baby. It wasn't screeching like it was the second night. So he says that it happened 3 nights in a row. He says that the fourth night, the same thing happens. This woman comes walking, but this time she's walking really slowly across the parking lot, and she tells him in Spanish, come here. Come here, ven pa acá,
Vente pa acá.
Yeah, ven pa acá. Well, we say ven pa acá because it's slang, but she told him, He says, okay. So he goes walking towards her, and she says, come here. See my baby. And when he looks at this baby, it's just a black thing with red eyes and gnarly looking teeth, jaggedy looking teeth all in it. And it's like chained to the baby carriage, inside of the baby carriage, and it's reaching out, shaking the outside of it with these little claws. And he said it just looked just like a little devil.
It's like a little basket case.
Like a demon.
Baby. Wow.
Like a demon baby. And it was black. Like black. And he said that it was just like this nasty looking, and then he said that she was like, you see my baby? And he looks up at her and her eyes are hollowed out. and she starts laughing really loud.
Whoa.
And then he just like closes his eyes because it was starting to hurt his ears, and his eyes were starting to burn. And then he opens his eyes and it's gone.
Michael Ponce, she disappeared. Add another to the Clinton body count.
Yeah,
But do you hear what I'm saying? I mean, like, what was that? And now how would you like it if you're out in the middle of
Definitely
nowhere and a woman pushing a baby carriage, you know, and you finally go to tell her, hey, you can't be on the property. So,
Please, sir,
well, you said
I'm
they
with
have
child.
a name for her. Yeah. What's the name they gave her?
The babysitter banshee.
oh, they called her, or not her, but they called it the demon baby.
Wow.
Because this is what she would do. And apparently he went to the property managers, he quit, turned in the badge and was like, I'm done. I'm done with this crap. Tells them, you know, mentiroso, you lied to me. You said that there was nothing going on. And the property manager was like, you know, there's nothing, you know, nothing going on. Still trying to hold on to that lie. He talked to, when he came to get his check during the day, he talked to a couple of the shopkeepers there in that shopping center. And they told him, no, that's a lot of guards quit. They don't keep guards very long because you see her at night. And so everybody in that shopping center would close down before dark.
Wow.
Because that's where she was at. And nobody knows the origins of it or where it came from or why it was that way.
Like another wailing woman kind of deal.
Kinda, yeah.
This one's got a baby.
Yeah.
La Llorona.
Brenda's got a baby.
Well, Brenda's baby is the devil. So I don't know.
Yeah, he says, Bishop, who's that say Bishop? I would never be in the middle of nowhere alone. That's a good idea. But
It came from hell. Yeah, Dick Richards. I think you're onto something. What's the projected life
Jeffrey
expectancy
Epstein didn't kill
of
himself.
a dog
Okay.
man? I'm gonna pass that one over.
is
to
any
Wolf.
security guards gone missing while on duty, never to be seen again? Yeah. We, the guy that I was telling you about that I used to work for years ago, who didn't ever want to really hear anything about ghosts or anything like that, said that Bigfoot, that he had and I talk about this in one of my Bigfoot shows. He says that there was a guard that went out to a post, and that he never came back. Like the guard that went to relieve him, the guy wasn't there. I talk about it, I believe it's called Bigfoot Encounters or Sasquatch Encounters. I don't know what it's called on our show. But he said that the guy went out there to relieve him, and he was gone. They never saw him again. He never showed up to get his check. I don't know what happened to him or what could have happened to him. This happened out in California. So yeah, and then we Anthony have had a guard or two work for us, and then we just don't hear from him again.
Never came back to work.
Well, one of them we recently ran into. Actually, D did.
Yeah, I seriously thought he was like just on the other side by now.
Yeah, we thought he was just because his Facebook went dark and nothing. No, and then
Yeah,
and his family was looking for him.
his family was looking for him, and then
Like
all of
the
a
last
sudden, out of
post-
nowhere, my brother runs into him on the bus.
Yeah, because the last post on his Facebook was like his one of his relatives asking, hey, has anyone on so and so's friend list seen him anywhere? And that was like in 2013.
Wow.
Well, he's still around.
Well,
I mean,
just out of curiosity, have you heard any dragon stories?
Well, I hope
Yes,
they're talking
actually,
now. Is this
I
still on
have. Somebody's talking on there. They asked if we'd heard any dragon stories. Yeah, if you go to Lizard Potluck, there's something akin to that on there on our show. Jess Sackett says, I live and work in Saudi Arabia. There are two places here that are directly related to the jinn. Absolutely, that's a hotbed for the jinn. Folks, I'll tell you my take on that. I'll tell you what I think the jinn are. I'll tell you what I think they are. And I'll tell you what I think that the fairies and the jinn and all that, it's all relative. The fairies are just in Ireland. That's their land. And the jinn inhabit the land in the Middle East. That's pretty much that. That's what I think that's
so
going
you're
on.
thinking
with
like it's the same thing?
they're all the same. They just inhabit different
Well, I think
lands.
Same thing, different
I
names.
think the
basically.
word jinn is just kind of like an umbrella term that can
It's a catch-all.
that can also encompass like fairies or leprechauns or kobolds, these goblins. weird little things that that people see. I mean, because Jinn doesn't just mean like hidden, or
Bishop Man says, I think even worse than the security guard alone would be a forest ranger in one of those towers alone in the woods. Oh, my gosh.
No,
Folks, coming up pretty soon, we're going to tell a story to you called The Church. And I'm not talking about the werewolf church that I talked about in Vic's show. I'm talking about a church that was so haunted, so scary, that the bravest guard I have, which I think is... who do you think the bravest guard we have is, Anthony?
Me?
As far as bravery. Guard.
I think Scorpion.
Scorp. He'll do
Because
anything.
Scorp will work anywhere,
Yeah, he doesn't
and
care.
he'll go to haunted places like
Scorp will
Travis'
fall
house.
asleep.
Fall asleep.
Yeah.
He don't care.
There'll be demons all around him.
When
and
they
he'll just
tell him
fall
to go in
asleep.
there and go to sleep, you don't have to tell him twice. We did a funeral home and he went in there and went to sleep. So that tells you.
In the casket.
No, not in the might as well. He might as well have been in the casket. Folks, let me tell you something. Scorp is a very brave individual. He has dealt with some really creepy stuff and he just don't care. But there was a church that he met his Waterloo at that church. He was done. He called me and was
He got
like,
his
come get me.
Achilles heel.
Oh, yes. I mean, he was done. And let me tell you something. We went through, Anthony, how many? Eight of all of our guards, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At that time, we were small and we only had about 8 guards.
Yeah, the church, you wouldn't even let me go out there to investigate that.
Yeah, and actually, it was Dick Richards, a Catholic church. It was, yeah, and so it was a church. We went out there, and I went out there, and I took my lumps out there, and I'm not going to talk about it tonight, but I'm going to do a show about it, and it is pretty bad. I mean, it got everybody. We went through all of our guards.
We'd love to have you, Shadow Hunter. Come check us out.
So, pretty bad place. I'm not going to get into it tonight. Tony, did you have anything else for us?
Not particularly. I think that's all the stories that we discussed before leading up to the Halloween episode. I know Chief said you had something you want to talk
The
about.
hairy ghost we were going to talk
Oh
about.
yeah, hairy ghost. Hairy ghost. That's the only
The
thing.
hairy
Yeah.
ghost, but that one is a little long. I'm going to have to tell that one on a different show probably.
Oh.
I've got a bunch of stuff on the Zone of Silence, but we could probably save it for another
We can
episode.
save
You're
it.
saying you had another story though, besides just that one.
Oh, I had I had to confirm with my mom about a lechuza story. I don't know if you remembered on the folklore, I told you there was a lechuza that would sit outside my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a lechuza, and I remembered it vaguely. My mom had to confirm. My father was walking on our property, and I remember the actual bird flying at my dad with his talons out and like knocked his glasses off of his face. Like my dad, like kind of like threw his hands up, flailing.
Your dad is deceased now too.
My dad passed away about
He
3
was
years
a very,
ago.
very good guy. I knew him very well.
Well, I think probably about 3 or 4 days went by with this owl, and the thing looked like a barn owl to me. One of those white barn owls, kind of like the one you see on the Labyrinth movie with David Bowie. And I think about 3 or 4 days after it's perched outside my bedroom window, my father finally went outside and shot it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling everything up to this point on the folklore podcast. But what my mom confirmed was when they finally shot it and put it in a pit and set it on fire, my mom confirmed that the thing lit up. The thing lit up like 4th of July. Now we're talking about an owl carcass, and the minute my dad sets it on fire, the thing just starts shooting out colors like a Roman candle.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom confirmed that with me. So we had a lechuza stalking our property, attacked my old man, sat outside my window. We finally kill it, set the thing on fire, and it goes up like a Roman candle.
Yeah, that's insane.
But yeah, I had to revisit that because I confirmed with my mom last time I was in South Texas.
Brandon Blackfire says, "What's the folklore podcast?" The folklore show where he's referring to is a Paranormal Round Table show that we did with Chief.
I think it's just called Mexican folklore.
Well,
right?
I think what happened with the folklore episode is that we joked around a lot, and then a lot of people didn't tune.
Yeah,
They didn't tune in for that next one, and that next episode was really good. I thought a lot of people that did listen to it were really liked it.
Yeah, they
because we
missed
talked about
on-
El Muerto,
the Cadejo, and all that.
Cadejo,
Yeah.
right? The devil dog, the what else? Lechuza, Llorona.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot of stuff with the border belt and
Yeah.
the hotbeds here in Texas.
Absolutely. So you guys at home, we gave you what we had tonight. We still left a lot of meat on the bone, like we always do. We put a bunch of stories together, and I didn't even get to the goat man, the goat man story. I'm gonna get that out to you guys. I got two of them, dude. I got a goat man in a mirror, and I got a goat man that was chased somebody on a property. I got another security guard story, and I'm sorry to you, the friend of mine. He wanted me to tell his story really bad, and I'm just not gonna be able to tonight. But yeah. Oh, look, Haskell Rascal, Tales from Throckmorton. Oh yeah, I used to live in Haskell when I was a kid.
Chris Anderson, we're working on some Chupacabra stuff. I'm working with someone that allegedly
The Baba Yaga episode. That's a guy that me and Scorp worked with too. Anyone knows what the scariest encounter you have heard or had? The scariest encounter I had, hands down, was when I had the goat man thing. I mean, not the goat. I mean, the dog man thing.
I don't know. Baba Yaga sounds like a delicious dish.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Well,
weird.
you go eat that
Sounds
then. I'm not gonna.
It's,
eat.
it's good. It sounds like something you would want to eat.
Sounds
but
like
it's-
Hey, man,
because
let
it sounds
me
like
get a Baba Yaga.
goulash or something.
You know why?
right?
'Cause
Hold the
it's
gravy.
it's
Extra
phonetically
gravy.
nice.
Extra gravy.
Yeah, it is. It's nice.
It's just phonetically nice to say.
I will do this. I will tell you guys before we leave. Halloween night, 29 years ago. I was 15 years old. The guy that I was with became a preacher. I've told this story on Vic's show. I saw a thing sitting in a ditch. I'm just going to kind of, long story short. And not the way that Sal does a long story short, but an actual long story short. Just kidding with you, Sal. So anyways, I'm sitting I see this thing sitting in a ditch. It stands up. We thought it was a dog at first. Then we thought it was some kind of wolf. It ran across the road on two legs. Came down an alley. And, yeah. It's pretty much the scariest thing that ever happened to me. And my friend's family, they saw it. And, yeah, it was a dog man. I mean, if that's the only way I could describe it. To me, it looked like a werewolf. I don't know what to call it. I mean, you could say a dog man. You could say a wolf man. You can call it bipedal canine. You can call it, whatever you want to call it. You call it King Kong, but it was basically
Or you call it
werewolf.
Mighty Kong
It looked like a werewolf.
or Baba Yaga.
No, it did
No,
not
it's
look
not
like a
Baba
Baba Yaga or
Baba
a goat
Yaga's
man.
a woman.
Call it what
I
you
have
will.
not seen a goat man. My brother claims to have seen a pig-looking thing in the mirror one time. But I don't. As far as like the scariest thing that's ever happened to me or heard, I think that those guys up in I think it was Saskatchewan or was it? It was in Canada.
Goatman Bridge in
Where
Maynard, Texas.
those guys had the encounter. I talk about it on Vic's show on Dogman Encounters on DRE or DER, and I don't remember what episode it was, folks. But there was a guy up in Canada, good guy, and told me his story. He was a logger, and he was sitting up in a vehicle, and this thing tried to get in at him. Now, I'm going to tell you something, folks.
That was a goat man story?
No, it was a dog man. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to come on Vic's show, and I'm going to do some dog man stuff pretty soon here, guys. And I want you to tune in because I'm going to tell you, I got a guy out of, I believe it was Tennessee, but it may be Mississippi. It's one of them two states whose story may actually have topped that one in fear. Okay, because this guy, when he was telling me this story, and my wife heard the story, it was like we were like, whoa. It's something similar to that guy in Canada happened to him, but it was like maybe even worse. I don't know. I mean, it was just crazy. I don't know. So we'll talk about that. That's going to probably be on Vic's show. I'm waiting to go back on there, and I was supposed to record them last night. Stupid me. I didn't get the call. I'd forgotten all about it because we had planned it a week before. And I was too busy watching the Astros get smoked. Mm-hmm. So that was my bad. And so, yeah, I'm going to get with Vic. I was supposed to do it tonight. And then I said, I think the show's going to run kind of late. He says, okay, let's do it another night. But we're going to record, me and Vic. I'm going to be on there, and we're going to talk about some Dogman. And I'm going to give him some stuff, I want to once again apologize to everybody about all the upheaval and things that went on this past week. I made some videos explaining my side of it, and I feel like I'm vindicated. I feel like I didn't do anything wrong to those people, And I just wanted to. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I want to apologize to everybody who's read any of the threads when they attacked Sal. We just kind of went off, dude. You know, and I apologize for that. We should have just not
responded,
fed into it, but we were just so sick of it. And
well, when you're doing stuff in the YouTube on that platform or in any other social media platform, that's fine. But you come onto someone's personal page and just start trolling or you know what I mean. And we just want to apologize and say that's not what we do here at Paranormal Round Table. We retaliated because that's what was occurring, and we dealt with it for 3 or 4 days. But that's all behind us. We're just here to relay your encounters.
This person says, I lived in a haunted house till I was 5. Whatever was in the house would whisper my name in the hallway outside my room at night. I never got out of bed. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
That's terrible. When I was a kid, there was one house in particular, and I talk about it, I think, on episode 2, which was my first real, paranormal stuff, and I had something like that. I would hear somebody walking through the hallway, and it sounded like boom, 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 like somebody had on, lead boots. And they were just stomping through the hallway, and nobody in this house could hear it. And we had this big old 2-story house, and at times my great aunt was there, and my other aunts, my mom's sisters, cousins, Anthony, your mom, they were all there, and nobody would hear this. It would just be me, and then later on, other people would hear stuff, and then I would be sound asleep, and I wouldn't hear it. So it was just, and I never heard anything call my name, I don't think. Anything like that. But, definitely heard whispering and things, which was another thing I was going to tell you guys. One last little thing. The place that I'm working at now, I was in the shop. We call it the shop because that's where the security guards keep their food and the refrigerator and all that. And then we have the maintenance guys. We share it with the maintenance guys, and they're very good guys. The maintenance guys there are awesome. We get along very good with them. We're all a team. We work together. And so we have a refrigerator, and we keep the place pretty clean, But I was in there washing my hands.
Don't mess with Wolf's lunch.
I eat pretty small lunches these days.
Yeah,
but, I was actually in there
washing. How much weight you lost right now?
Quite a bit.
You're looking good, man.
But I was in there washing my hands, and I don't know what it was. It was broad daylight, but the lights were off. It was like you don't need the lights on because there's enough light coming from outside. So everything kind of had that kind of bluish, pale look to it, whatever. And something came up behind me. I saw for a split second in the mirror something black kind of run toward me, kind of come behind me, and then I just looked and was like, "Whoa!" And I shook my head and it was gone. That's the only thing that's happened to me in that particular room. But that's the other thing that happened to me at that site that I'm at right now.
Shout out to Nevermind.
Don't know what
Phoenix,
that was.
Arizona.
Don't know what that was. Chief's not listening. He's just looking at comments. Little turd. That's how he is.
Yeah, we've been going for a while.
I try to keep them.
But anyway, I wanted to get all the stories out for that, but I didn't get to everything, and there's a lot of stuff we still have to talk about. So keep tuning in, folks. We're going to do this again. We're going to do another live show at some point.
Yeah, hopefully with Sal.
Yeah, and we'll get Sal because he can get on here and he can talk, and we can do whatever. And guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate Tony being here, even though he's useless. Chief, even though he's lost in space. Anthony, even though he's mean as all heck. And, of course, me, the perfect little angel that I am. Everybody.
Okay.
Ethan says, hi, everyone. Just finished watching Venomous Friends. Sorry for missing out. Well,
look, Bolito's in the chat.
Good for you, brother. Ethan. How was it?
I saw that.
How was the 13-hour Dogopolis or whatever the heck it was called?
What is that? Venomous Friends.
Shower every night with my bow and arrow. Oh, my gosh.
Well,
many years later, my dad had experience in the garage. Whatever happened to him made him leave all the lights and stay on for an entire week.
Wow.
He's never talked about it. A lot of times that happens. People don't talk about stuff after it's happened.
He still is there, though.
Yeah.
That's dedication right there.
Committed.
Mm-hmm.
So Ethan says it's best ever, and it made 15 hours. All right. Good. I'm glad.
Shout out to Paulo Flores.
My sis would yell out
That's
my
his.
name.
That's Anthony's brother, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's Polito.
Yep.
Paulito.
Yeah.
I'm about to send
Why don't you come on the show
a link. Y'all need to check it out.
Why don't you come on the show and tell your story, Polito? don't remember my ghost
He's busy
story.
with his new girlfriend. So
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So he doesn't care about any of us.
He's busy, but yeah, he's on our show in the chat room. It's like you're too busy, homie. When I was your age,
maybe he's sitting there ignoring her and making her mad.
I would be very busy.
Hey, Dick and Keith. Maybe, I don't know.
Chief? I think he was trying to say.
Chief, maybe?
Oh, that might be a kid.
So there's people
Dick
that
and
they
Chief?
all know each other. So, anyways, that's pretty much it for us guys. We gave you the Halloween show. We can't go 15 hours. You know, we can't be.
I'm all out of candy.
We're not going to do all. We have a lot of stuff to cover though in the upcoming episodes, man. I hope you guys will continue to tune in. Unfortunately, there won't be an episode tomorrow, Cotton. He says, what episode's tomorrow?
He will not be able to see Will.
There will not be an episode tomorrow. I have to work tomorrow, and we're not going to be able to get one loaded up, although we have several good interviews coming up, dude. Really good stuff.
We got one backlogged. We can put a backlogged one out, maybe?
I mean, we have backlogs, but
We are
Anthony has to edit
totally
it.
backlogged. I want to apologize to everybody, like Melissa Martell. She does Secret Door Podcast. Everybody go there.
Check her out, guys.
Check out the Cryptid Squad, Michael Moran, even though he misspelled. I keep getting
Cryptid Squad.
It's Squad.
Squad?
I keep getting attacked about that. I'm like, look, man, it was just.
It's temporary. We'll revamp it.
We'll
guys.
refix it. I'm the admin in that group now. We got a lot of good stuff. Everything is just keep tuning in, and we're gonna keep pumping out shows. There is one thing I'd like to say too. Okay. I really, really, really appreciate all the support that I was given during all the things that were going on. I appreciate everybody who's tuned in. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate everybody who's helped our show grow. I think we're at like 5,700 members or something like that, or 50, something.
Yeah,
Subscribers, and that's just on the on
YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah. We're on several other platforms, but if you guys just keep getting your friends to subscribe, keep listening, keep getting people to listen so we can grow, and maybe eventually I can do this more often. I still have 200 stories to tell that I just don't have time, you know, because I got to work. I got things I got to do. I'd love to be able to do this full time, you know. I'd get you these stories. And, so we're going to do a show, another show about security guard, ghost stories, and paranormal things that people have seen.
I think we're going to be revisiting some Pukwudgie and the future Michael Moran.
Yep, a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff lined up, and like I said, we got a lot of interviews going up. We got some water cryptids coming up. We got Melissa Martell, the Secret Door. Mm-hmm. We got Sarah Chandler. She was a listener that came down, and she told me and Sal her stories of living in a haunted house. And so we got Lance Strickler. We did an interview with Paul Sinclair. We got to finish that one up. We got Lisa Lycan. So everybody, just stay tuned. Keep coming back. We'll keep pumping them out. I got lots of stories, man. I got these stories, man. And so, once again, I appreciate it. Everybody, happy Halloween. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope everyone is safe. And the email address is doswolfman88@gmail.com. And wolfandsal@gmail.com. And hit me up on Facebook. Our group is Paranormal Round Table.
You want to plug your email, Chief?
My email, sotxtat supply@gmail.com. Please send me your encounters, any stories that I could relay on the show. Thank you very much.
And Chief is also a very good, talented tattoo artist, Forsaken Tattoos.
Touch base with us on my email also for booking and availability.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I need to get this finished.
Let me know.
It's not to talk about on the show, but Tony has a tattoo that Chief jacked up. No, I'm just kidding. He did a great job on it, guys. All right. I'll see you guys. I love you all.
All you guys in YouTube land, sayonara.
Good night.